1,000 years ago, the demon beasts were ruled by the dragon clan, and the one at the top was known as the demon god. With overwhelming ambition, he wreaked havoc, leading an army of magical beasts and ravaging the human world. His greed knew no bounds, aiming to plunge every corner of the world into endless darkness. At that time, humanity faced destruction, but luckily, humanity's potential was fully unleashed. In the wave of spiritual awakening, some exceptional individuals showed the ability to control demonic beasts, and were called beast tamers. In the present, a dragon was ravaging the city, but a beast tamer mounted on a lion appeared and attacked the dragon with an energy burst, causing the beast to crash into the residential area, prompting authorities to send emergency medical assistance. The beast crashed into the apartment of our protagonist named Xiao Xingyu, a student at Xiangnan High School. The wounded beast tore through our boy's entire apartment until it stopped right in front of him, making blood splatter onto his face, causing him terror. The beast opened its mouth and prepared to attack, and Xingyu was paralyzed with fear. But at that moment, someone chanted a spell and summoned a flame that struck the dragon, killing it instantly. Xingyu began rubbing his eyes, and once he opened them, he saw Su Ryuan, the headmaster of Qinglong Academy, who dismounted from her beast and apologized for the inconvenience. Then she handed him the academy's card saying they would take care of repairing the damage caused to his house and offer compensation. After handing over the card, she said goodbye to him, and she and her team flew away. While Xingyu was looking at the card, he remembered that in this world everyone dreamed of becoming beast tamers, and of course this was also a desire he had. But unfortunately, he couldn't afford to buy a beast, and without a beast, he couldn't take the National Beast Tamer exam. If he couldn't become a beast tamer, he wouldn't be able to protect anyone. While he was distracted, something started climbing up his clothes. It was a small and adorable white dog that began licking his face. He picked up the dog and realized that this dog was a husky who had followed the dragon here. He remembered that textbooks mentioned it was a creature similar to a dog called Galehound. This was perfect since he could take care of it, and now that he had a beast, he could become a beast tamer. But the only problem was that the National Beast Tamers exam was in 3 days, so he wasn't going to make it on time. He lifted the husky into the air and with an excited smile decided to awaken its spirit. The next day, early in the morning, Xingyu went to Qingfeng City's beast tamer store, intending to give the husky to someone who could afford to raise it. The dog was happy, but Xingyu knew that it had no future if it stayed with him. The store owner, furious, opened the door, asking what he was doing standing in front of the shop so early. Xingyu started to show off the adorable husky, asking the guy if he wanted this beast. But the owner told him to get lost since nobody in their right mind would want a Galehound, revealing that it had very inferior blood and no path for evolution. Xingyu had no choice but to leave, but at that moment, something began to shine, leaving him surprised. It was the status window of the husky. It was in the initial stage, but it had a hidden bloodline called Hell Bloodline. Furthermore, it had 4 hidden evolution paths. Xingyu started rubbing his eyes thinking that it was an illusion, but when he opened his eyes again, the status window was still there. He asked the shop owner if this husky had 4 hidden evolution paths, but the owner began to chase him away with a broom saying that Galehounds didn't have any evolution path. Xingyu realized that the man couldn't see the system panel, only he could see it. Suji, his classmate, the son of the richest man in town, appeared and with a smile mocked him by saying that he remembered Xingyu wasn't planning to take the national exam because he didn't have a beast. He approached the husky and asked if he had managed to get a beast. Xingyu turned his back on him and told him to mind his own business. Suji mentioned that Lina was right about Xingyu not planning to take the beast tamer exam at all. He couldn't help but start laughing since even if Xingyu tried, he wouldn't pass the exam. Upon hearing the name Lina, Xingyu, surprised, turned around, only for Suji to reveal to him that his ex-girlfriend Zhang Lina had been with him for a while. Lina appeared, grabbed Suji by the arm asking what he was doing there. He responded that he had just come to greet an old friend. Seeing Xingyu, Lina became nervous and asked Suji to stop joking since she hadn't been with him for long. She didn't care if a loser carrying a Galehound saw her with someone rich. Xingyu got angry, started pointing at her with his finger and asked her not to forget that he had been the one who helped her when she was down, giving her permission to spend her life with a rich jerk, but reminding her that he had been the one who broke up with her. Suji got angry, but Lina asked him not to lower himself to the level of a loser with a worthless Galehound, thinking that she should have left him long ago. Xingyu left, sticking out his tongue at them. What they didn't know is that this Gale Hound had 4 hidden evolution paths, which would change Xingyu's future. 3 days later, all the students gathered in Zilin Square as the National Advanced Beast Taming exam was about to begin. After some time, it was the turn of the candidates from Qingfeng City to enter the venue. Xingyu, who was known for not having a beast, filled himself with confidence and decided to be the first to take the exam. Everyone knew that he didn't have money to buy a beast and had only registered for the exam 3 days ago by enrolling in Qinglong Academy, which is considered one of the top 4 main academies. To take the exam, each participant had to touch the golden ball. Xingyu approached it and began sweating due to nervousness. Xingyu informed the professor that he was here to take the exam. Chen Qinyan, the admissions professor of Qinglong Academy, took off his hat asking if he was Xiao Xingyu, to which he replied that he was. Chen Qinyan's gaze fixed on our boy since he was the only Qingfeng student applying to their academy. Suji appeared, mocking Xingyu, asking if he didn't know his own limits, mentioning that in the last 5 years, only 8 students from Qingfeng City had dared to apply to the Qinglong Academy. With an evil smile, he revealed that none had managed to pass. He took out a sheet of paper and swore that if Xingyu managed to pass the exam and enter the academy, he would kneel down and call him dad. In response, Xingyu asked him to clear his throat and get ready to call him dad. Upon seeing his attitude, Suji got angry. Xingyu turned around and asked the teacher if he could start the test. Chen Qinyan took out a sheet and made one thing very clear. The entrance exam for Qinglong Academy was tough. Xingyu had not chosen any backup option, so if he failed this exam, he would never be able to apply to another Beast Tamers Academy. Everyone started laughing since the minimum spirit power score to pass the academy exam was 800, so there was no way a loser like him could reach that. And for this reason, everyone was applying to ordinary beast tamer schools. Xingyu paid no attention and told the teacher that he was ready to begin. Chen Qinyan reached out towards the golden ball, explaining that the first test was about spirit power. Xingyu placed his hand on top of the ball and it began to glow, revealing that he had a spirit power of 316 points. Upon seeing this, Suji began to mock him since he couldn't even reach the minimum score of Qinglong Academy. Professor Chen Qinyan sighed and called the next student, feeling somewhat disappointed since he had thought that he was a promising student. But upon seeing that the spiritual power of our boy was rising, he was shocked. The ball started to show 621 points, but then it reached 711, then 800, and then 956, leaving everyone stunned, while on the other side, Suji was furious and thought that the meter must be broken. Finally, the ball started to show 1028 points, leaving the professor and the others speechless. No one knew what kind of madness this was. The spiritual power determined how many beasts a beast tamer could contract. Every 100 points equaled 1 beast, and a score of 1028 meant that Xingyu had the potential to become a 10-star beast tamer. The professor began to observe Xingyu and remembered that there had only been a few 10-star beast masters in the last few decades in the Dragon Kingdom. Realizing that the Dragon Kingdom had found a genius, he took out Xingyu's registration form and revealed to everyone that he had a spiritual power of 1028 points. A proud smile appeared on the face of RMC, making Suji and Lena start to feel jealous. Last year, Yi Ningxuang, the genius girl, had obtained a score of 1030 points. No one expected our boy to be so strong, being only 2 points below her. Suji asked Xingyu not to celebrate victory so early since the exam had 2 parts. Lena started pointing at him with her finger, firmly believing that he was not going to pass the beast bloodline quality test. Just before the professor could prepare the next test, the technician appeared and started whispering in his ear, explaining that there had been a small error with the spiritual power meter, revealing that Xingyu's actual score was 1032 points, being 2 points higher than Yi Ningxuang's. The professor did not lose his composure and decided to keep the malfunction of the machine a secret, asking the man not to make it public. The man started touching his cap and affirmed positively. A while later, they went to do the second test, which consisted of checking the bloodline quality of the beast. All the students formed a circle around Xingyu. The teacher gave our boy the order to summon his beast. With a smile, he clenched his fist, making a mark appear on his hand. Then, he extended his hand towards the mark that was on the ground and asked his beast, Black Fang, to come out, causing its feet to start manifesting. Powerful flames appeared around the beast, and upon witnessing this, Suji, Lena, and the others were left speechless. But once the flames disappeared, Husky appeared, who was sleeping like a log. Everyone was somewhat disappointed to see that Xingyu's beast was a Gale Hound, the lowest grade beast in terms of bloodline quality. They couldn't believe that there were still people who made contracts with Gale Hounds as their beasts. The professor put his hand on top of his head as he was disappointed. Besides the spiritual power, the bloodline quality was also an important factor that limited the future development of a beast tamer, and now it was clear that Xingyu's beast had poor bloodline quality. He apologized to Xingyu, and just when he was about to say that his beast had a poor bloodline quality, one of the students asked him to wait since the beast wasn't entirely a Gale Hound. The ears of Husky started to grow and its eyes began to shine, making a red cross appear on its forehead. The once small Gale Hound now transformed into a powerful beast, leaving everyone somewhat confused since the Gale Hounds did not have an evolution path. The status window of Husky appeared above its head. Now it was called Hellwing Wolf. It was in the initial form of the first stage, and had the Hell's epic bloodline. The professor approached Husky and using the device started to scan it, wondering if this beast was a second stage evolution. A smile appeared on the professor's face, and his gaze fixed on Xingyu, realizing that our boy was something special. It got dark, and with this, Xingyu passed the exam and entered Qinglong Academy. Without making a sound, Lina and Suji turned their backs on him and prepared to flee. They couldn't believe that he had managed to pass the exam. But as expected, our boy was not going to let this happen. He called Suji's attention, asking where he was planning to go and if he wasn't going to say goodbye to his dad. When Suji turned around, he saw the enormous Black Fang standing behind Xingyu. Suji lost his composure, started pointing at our boy with his finger and asked him not to be so arrogant, that he wasn't going to call him dad, asking what he was going to do about it. Xingyu started staring at him intently and called Black Fang. Suji realized that something bad was going to happen, and when he turned around it was already too late. With a murderous gaze, Black Fang placed its paw on Suji's back, making him kneel on the ground. Xingyu approached, asking if he could talk now. Suji clenched his teeth and with no other option, called Xingyu dad. Our boy turned his back on him and said that he didn't have a son like him, giving him the order to get lost. Lina decided to take advantage of this situation. She appeared in front of our boy, and with a kind smile explained that during these last 2.5 years, she had developed deep feelings for him, asking if there was a possibility that they could be together again. Obviously, Xingyu was not going to fall into the trap again. With a cold attitude, he turned his back on her and refused since he wasn't going back to the past. Lina fell to her knees on the ground and began to beg, admitting that she was wrong. After a few hours, Xingyu arrived in the city and took out his mobile phone to tell his sister the good news of having entered Qinglong Academy. But once he called his sister, the only thing that was heard were screams, indicating to our boy that something was wrong. At the same time, in Qingfeng City's outskirts, more precisely at the farmer's market, a horde of monsters invaded the area, destroying and creating chaos everywhere, causing everyone to start fleeing for their lives. Among the crowd, someone began asking if anyone had seen their child. Someone hugged a little girl who was crying. It was a woman with white hair who was hiding behind some rubble. She began to comfort the girl, asking her not to be afraid. She thought she was safe, but no, since a stinger full of venom appeared behind them. The woman noticed this and thought that this was not good. Once she looked back, she saw a huge scorpion right above them, drooling and ready to attack. Xingyu panicked and arrived at the farmer's market where he saw many people running for their lives. He didn't know what was happening here. In front of him there was only destruction, beasts destroying everything in their path, and humans fleeing. Not a single trace of his sister. The scorpion launched a powerful attack using its stinger, but luckily, it struck near where the girl and the woman were. This woman was Xingyu's sister. Upon hearing the sound of the attack, he started running to save his sister. Xingyu's eye started to bleed and then a system window appeared in front of him again, informing that Black Fang's Hell Howl skill was available, asking if he wanted to use it now. Without hesitating for a second, Xingyu pressed the button that said yes and gave the order to Black Fang to use the infernal howl. But nothing happened, and instead of attacking, Black Fang's attention shifted to the side, leaving Xingyu somewhat confused as he didn't know why the skill wasn't working. The scorpion pulled its stinger out of the ground and launched an attack towards the sister again, and upon seeing this, Xingyu panicked and started to feel afraid. And this moment reminded him that when the dragon had broken his window, the people from Qinglong Academy had chanted some kind of spell. He calmed down and decided to try it as well. Black Fang began to transform into Hellwing Wolf, and Xingyu started chanting the same spell as them. After transforming, Black Fang rushed towards the scorpion. Xingyu extended his hand and gave the order to use Hell Howl. Black Fang opened its mouth, making a ball of energy appear. After charging the attack, it launched a powerful burst towards the scorpion, destroying its body in half and saving the sister and the girl. The lifeless body of the beast fell to the ground, and Xingyu couldn't believe that he had defeated it, realizing that this was the true power of a beast tamer. He began to worry upon remembering that his sister was still near the monster. Quickly he rushed towards the area, and found his sister hugging the little girl, asking if she was okay. Upon seeing that she was not injured, Xingyu felt relieved. But the sister, astonished and confused, grabbed him by the shoulders and asked how he had done this. Xingyu grabbed his sister's hand and with a smile revealed that he was now a beast tamer and had entered the Qinglong Academy. While they were talking, Black Fang pounced on our boy and started licking his hand, and he explained to his sister that this was his contracted beast. Black Fang was very happy and Xingyu introduced it as the Hellstorm Wolf, called Black Fang. The people who were previously running for their lives from the monster turned around, asking if the monster was really dead. With a confident smile, Xingyu confirmed it, and the sister said that it must be dead. A woman appeared and thanked them for having saved her daughter. The daughter, with tears in her eyes, began to approach her mother to give her a hug, asking where she had gone. At the same time, Xingyu and the sister approached the scorpion's corpse, and at that moment, a crystal began to emerge from the corpse, and they decided to go see it. The crystal fell to the ground and a status window appeared. It was an initial stage monster core with the poison attribute, and it could increase the poison attribute by 5 points and could grant 10 XP points. Xingyu took the core and gave it to Black Fang to eat, since even if it was a poison attribute core in its initial stage, even the smallest gain could help Black Fang evolve. He turned around and announced that the monster was dead, so everyone could be at ease. The people gathered around our boy, praising him as a true hero for having saved them. Even the girl he had saved before appeared and said that she also wanted to become a beast tamer like him. Xingyu began to stroke the girl's head, saying that he believed she was going to become an amazing beast tamer. Once it got dark, Xingyu returned to his apartment where the hole in the wall was still there, and he fell asleep. At that moment, the sister appeared. She started staring at him intently and remained silent, her gaze fixed on the blue dragon mark that our boy had on his back. She left the room and made a call informing that the curse of the dragon rune was still in place, and the seal over the essence of the Dragon King remained intact. She was somewhat confused since she didn't know why Xingyu could still form a contract with a beast. The other person mentioned that this must be a matter of fate, asking her to keep a close watch on Xingyu. She understood this, and with a firm look decided to keep our boy under watch. The next day, Xingyu and his sister packed their bags and went to the train station, where many people came to say goodbye to them. Among them were the father and the mother. The father gave our boy a basket of salted duck eggs since he had always loved them since childhood, and the mother gave them some envelopes with some money. A while later, the train arrived, and with a smile Xingyu began to say goodbye to everyone, promising that he would visit them when he was on break. The sister began to show a kind smile. A while later, both got on the train and Xingyu asked her to take a seat. The train set off, and several hours later, the conductor asked the passengers to take note. There were reports of beasts along the railway ahead, so there could be some shaking in the train. This caught Xingyu and his sister's attention. Luckily, the train successfully passed through the dangerous section and was now on a bridge, about to enter a tunnel. Xingyu felt happy that they had managed to get through the dangerous section, being very close to Longyan City. The sister remembered that he was soon going to start school, so she asked him to study hard. But at that moment, the whole train started to shake, causing Xingyu to go on alert. The conductor revealed that a group of beasts known as three-eyed giant monkeys had been sighted further ahead, asking them to protect themselves and their belongings. Xingyu became enraged as he knew this was not good, and all the other passengers began to feel afraid since they were being attacked despite having passed through the dangerous section. The beasts climbed onto the roof of the train and began to hit it forcefully, slowly breaking it and increasing the panic. No one knew what to do now, nor did they know how they were going to face such powerful beasts. A giant monkey broke the roof of the train and entered inside, causing panic. Xingyu asked his sister to hide and not come out. She was somewhat confused and asked what he was going to do. Xingyu turned his back on her, and she fell to her knees on the ground, begging him not to go. The giant monkey leaped and prepared to attack our boy, but a golden fox appeared and using its tail, struck the monster in the face. Someone asked our MC if he was just going to stand there watching, leaving him speechless. The three-tailed fox belonged to the beast master named Qin Yanren, daughter of the president of the Sky Guild. She put her hand in front of him and told him to step back if he didn't want to die. She started to spin the spear, pointed it at the giant monkey and gave the order to the fox to use the thunder flash. Electricity appeared around its body, and it started running towards the monkey. Xingyu was in shock. The beast's status window appeared. It was a three-tailed thunder fox of level 3. with an epic quality bloodline. The ability Thunder Flash allowed this beast to dash to dodge attacks and strike the enemy with lightning damage. Upon seeing the three-tailed Thunder Fox and the spear, he finally realized who she was. The fox and Qin Yanren prepared to attack, and people thought they were saved. A smile appeared on Xingyu's face, but then another giant monkey broke through the roof of the train and entered the carriage. Xingyu turned around and asked everyone to evacuate the train. Several more giant monkeys entered the wagon and started destroying everything. These monsters were social creatures, but for some strange reason they were now furious. Xingyu extended his hand towards Black Fang and gave it the order to go since he wanted to assist the beast master. Qin Yanren stabbed the spear into the monster's back, ending its life, but she didn't know why there were so many beasts. And while she was distracted, two more beasts appeared and tried to attack her from behind, and our boy warned her by asking her to be careful. Black Fang transformed and Xingyu, who had no plans to stand idly by, used the ability called Inferno Bind, chaining the beasts so they couldn't escape. In the blink of an eye, he defeated the three beasts, and Qin Yanren approached him asking if he was also a beast master. She took the fox in her arms and with a smile thanked our MC for having saved her earlier. He responded that there was no need to give thanks since any beast master would have done the same in that situation. He paid a little attention and realized that something bad was happening to her beast. The status window of the beast appeared. It was depressed and lethargic, a result of post-battle trauma. The system even showed our boy the treatment. Xingyu asked her if lately her beast was getting too excited in battle but then became lethargic afterward, even showing signs of self-harm. Qin Yanren was somewhat surprised as this was true, asking how he knew this. Xingyu started touching his cheek and explained that her beast was suffering from post-battle trauma. He had read about this condition in the Beast Tamer's Guide to Ailments, where it mentioned that thunder foxes were very susceptible. Deep down, he couldn't tell her exactly that he could see the status of her beast. In return, as a form of gratitude, she gave him a pat on the back. Now she understood why her beast called Xiao hadn't been smiling lately, deciding to take it to be treated immediately. She put her hand on our MC's shoulder and decided that he was going to be her little brother from now on. While the two of them were talking, Xingyu's sister appeared and started staring at them intently. She stood between the two of them and with a forced smile mentioned that he wasn't just anyone's little brother. Then she grabbed our boy's arm and said that he was her little brother. Qin Yanren started staring at her intently and decided not to stand idly by. She grabbed Xingyu by the arm and pulled him away from his sister. The sister grabbed him by the arm again and Qin Yanren said that from now on he was also her little brother. Both started fighting each other, and they began pulling on Xingyu with such force that he felt like he was going to break in half. After a few hours, they arrived at the central plaza of the Azure Dragon Academy, where there were a lot of students gathered. One of the professors welcomed everyone to the Azure Dragon Academy, and on the stage were also Vice Principal Wang Dingsheng and Dean of Education Lin Kang. Everyone had to be patient until the principal arrived. After getting off the train, Xingyu said goodbye to Sister Qin and managed to enroll in the academy without too many problems. A powerful white lion began to roar in the sky. Everyone became happy upon recognizing the purple flame lion of Principal Su. The Principal Su, who was mounted on top of the lion, flew over them. The lion flapped its wings forcefully and landed in front of everyone. Once she got off the lion, the professor approached her and asked her to say a few words to the new students. Xingyu was in shock since she was the same woman who had fought against the Shadow Demon Dragon before. He did not expect at all that she would be the principal of the Azure Dragon Academy. Su took the mic and first congratulated all the students for having enrolled in the academy. But she made one thing very clear: it didn't matter if they were from an influential family or came from humble origins. With a serious look, she made it clear that in the academy everyone was going to follow her rules, especially rule number 8. None of the new students knew about rule number 8. The Principal Su extended her hand to one side and explained that if conflicts arose between students, no matter who was right or wrong, the dispute had to be resolved through a duel in the ring and the loser had to apologize to the winner. Xingyu got serious because although Rule 8 seemed to be strict, it was the best, since in this way influential families could not intimidate others or abuse their power, giving ordinary students the freedom to seek justice with their fists. 2 hours later, everyone went to their assigned classes, and one of the students was in shock upon learning that he was in the same class as Xingyu. It was normal for this guy to be surprised since Xingyu had a spiritual power that almost rivaled Ning Shuang's. Xingyu didn't even pay attention, and Professor Chen Qinyan gave them the order to sit down since the class was about to begin. Everyone obeyed and sat down, and the guy from before swore to follow Xingyu from now on. The teacher started writing on the board and asked for silence. Then he turned around and announced that he was their homeroom teacher, hoping that everyone would gain something valuable from their time at the academy. He asked everyone to open the Beast Companion Guide as it was time to start with the theory. You see, the strength of a Beast Companion was primarily determined by two factors, the first being the evolutionary stage. The currently known evolutionary stages, from lowest to highest, included initial form, mature form, complete form, transcendent form, and Beast King form. The second factor was the quality of the beast's bloodline, the documented bloodlines being classified from low to high quality, and the higher quality bloodlines naturally exerted a suppressive effect on the inferior ones. Additionally, the attributes of beast companions could create an attribute suppression effect. For example, the 5 common elemental attributes, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, follow a cycle of mutual suppression. Wood suppresses earth, earth suppresses water, water suppresses fire, fire suppresses metal, and metal suppresses wood. Beyond these 5 basic attributes, there are other variants such as sand, lightning, and many more. The hours passed and it became evening, and instead of paying attention in class, Xingyu was sleeping like a log. The teacher noticed this and, furious, threw the chalk at his head to wake him up. Even though he was still sleepy, Xingyu opened his eyes as best as he could, and as punishment the teacher asked him what the weakness of the sky demon lizard was. The teacher was very pissed off, and if Xingyu couldn't answer the question, then he could pack his things and get out of the class. The tension in the atmosphere grew, but Xingyu stood up and with a confident smile responded that the weakness of the beast was the poison sac under its abdomen. The answer was correct and everyone was in shock. The teacher decided to ask another question, asking where condor crocodiles normally lived. To everyone's surprise, Xingyu answered again, explaining that these beasts lived in the Frostfall Lake region of the Southern Dragon Kingdom, as well as in the cold pools under the Kunlun Glacier waterfalls. Upon seeing that the answer was correct, the teacher put his hand on his chin and decided to test him further, asking what he would do if he encountered a sky-rending tiger in the wild. Xingyu responded that he would bite his identification card and find a shady place to lie down. This answer left both the teacher and the students somewhat confused, but Xingyu furthermore explained that the reason behind this was that the sky-rending tiger was a king beast of the mutated beast form, so only a level 6 or higher beast master could have a chance against it. And if they, some beginner beast masters, encountered this beast in the wild, they would be as good as dead. And for this reason he would put his ID in his mouth to make it easier for his family to identify his body. And he would also try to find a shady place to prevent the body from decomposing too quickly. Upon hearing this response, at first the professor got angry, but then he hit the table giving it the highest score. The truth was that he was asking questions from later chapters. Xingyu took out 3 books and revealed that he had already studied the rest of the material, leaving the other students in shock who didn't know how they were going to keep up with a monstrous prodigy like him. The teacher asked the class to continue with the self-study, and as for our boy, he asked him to come with him. Xingyu left the class with the professor and apologized, promising that he would not fall asleep in class again. But the professor mentioned that it wasn't about that. He put his hand on his chin and added that Xingyu had mastered the entire semester's theoretical content in less than half a class. Xingyu complimented the professor by saying that it was all thanks to his teachings, but the professor got angry and asked him to cut the compliments. Now that our boy had completed the theoretical section, it was time for him to dive into more advanced material. He handed him a card that was the pass to the Academy's library. With this pass, he was free to come and go in the library and borrow any book for free. Xingyu took the pass and was speechless. The professor put his hand on his shoulder and gave him permission to go since he had nothing more to teach him. Xingyu went to the library, which was almost empty, and after finding a book to his liking, he sat in a corner on the floor and began to read. He was reading books that would help him make Black Fang stronger. But the calm didn't last long since Wang Yan, the son of Vice Principal Wang Dingsheng, entered the library along with his subordinates, announcing that today the academy belonged to him, giving everyone the order to leave. All the students who were in the library at that moment started running towards the exit, while on the other hand, Xingyu paid no attention. Wang Yan started to approach 3 girls and asked them to stay to keep him company while he studied. The girls began to feel very scared and begged him to let them go. This upset Xingyu, who closed the book and threw it at Wang Yan's head, asking him to shut up. Wang Yan, somewhat furious and confused, asked who was the responsible. His subordinate began to point at Xingyu with his finger, revealing that he was the one disrespecting him. Xingyu stood in front of the girls, and upon seeing that Wang Yan was harassing them, he thought that he had no shame. In response, Wang Yan asked who did he think he was, acting like a hero. One of the girls, scared, advised him to leave and not get involved with this guy, since he was the son of Vice Principal Wang Dingsheng. They, mere commoners, could not afford to mess with him. Our MC finally understood why this bastard was so arrogant, and Wang Yan was proud that he had understood it. He understood that Xingyu knew what was convenient for him, so he gave a thumbs down and asked him to kneel and apologize. But obviously Xingyu wasn't going to do this. Without hesitating for a second, our boy gave him a strong kick in the balls, making the guy start to feel intense pain. The arrogant Wang Yan fell to the ground and began to writhe in pain. His subordinates approached asking if he was okay. With his body trembling, he started pointing at the ceiling with his finger, asking Xingyu if he knew who he was. He forcefully hit the ground and swore not to let him leave this library alive for having messed with someone like him. While Wang Yang was writhing in pain, he decided to take revenge by showing our boy who really ruled at the Qinglong Academy. Someone entered the library upon hearing Wang Yang's arrogant tone. It was Principal Su, who had come along with the professor. She was somewhat surprised as she did not know that the academy was under Wang Yang's control. He was confused since he couldn't believe that she had found out so quickly. Su didn't take long to understand the situation and explained that because the two of them had a conflict, they should handle it according to Article 8 of the school regulations. If the students had a conflict, regardless of who was right or not, it had to be resolved through a duel in the ring, and the losing party had to apologize to the winner. They went to the square arena and everyone was anxious for the fight to begin, and many thought that Wang Yang was going to be the winner since his beast was a legendary quality 6-clawed sky-splitting leopard. Nobody believed that our boy was going to win. He simply started to show a confident smile. The professor was also observing the combat and hoped that Xingyu would not disappoint him. Both of them stepped into the arena and the referee announced that the fight was about to begin. Wang Yang shook our boy's hand and decided to let him know what happens when someone goes against him. Xingyu started to smile and mocked him by saying that he would eagerly wait for his apology, making Wang Tang furious. The combat officially began. Wang Tang placed his hand on the ground and summoned his ice leopard. This beast was terrifying. It had sharp claws and sharp teeth. Xingyu activated his ability, causing his eyes to start bleeding. But thanks to this he could see the stats of the beast. It was in the initial stage. It had two talents. The first, called Profound Ice Freeze. Any attack would add a certain amount of freezing damage, reducing the enemy's movement speed and attack speed by 30%. The second talent was called Shattering Cold, which was an ice sphere that locked onto a target and exploded, creating ice blades that caused area damage. Our boy started to get a little scared as he realized that this was a dual attribute beast. But then he calmed down and decided it was time to take the stage, invoking the Black Edge. Some realized that Xingyu's beast was very dominant, and in terms of appearance, Wang Tang's beast was totally defeated. In the VIP seating room, Principal Su was watching the fight. She had never seen a beast like our boy's before, realizing that it was an evolved version of the Gale Hound. Her mind filled with confusion and many questions, as the Gale Hound had always been known as a useless beast without an evolution path, wondering how Xingyu had done it. Back in the arena, Wang Tang became enraged upon realizing that Xingyu was only trying to get attention, and thought it was time to teach him a good lesson. He gave the order to his beast to use the ice-tearing claw. The beast launched icicles. Upon seeing this, Xingyu gave Black Fang the order to use the serpentine movement. Black Fang started moving from side to side and dodged the attacks without much effort, but the leopard took advantage of this to get closer and delivered several blows. Now Black Fang was quite injured and with its body trembling. This beast had a dual attribute, wind and fire, while the leopard had the attributes of ice and fire, having an attribute advantage. Wang Tang, furious, was determined to disable Xiao Xingyu's beast, so he used the Shattering Heaven technique, and the leopard launched a burst from its mouth, freezing Black Fang's body. The poor Black Fang was trapped in the ice, unable to move. Wang Tang thought he had won and with a proud smile assured that it wouldn't be long before Black Fang froze to death. The director Su and the others were anxious to see what Xingyu was going to do now. He simply began to show a confident smile, then extended his hand and gave the order to Black Fang to use the Rift Fang. The body of Black Fang began to transform into shadow, until suddenly, it disappeared. This was the dark attribute, and the teachers were somewhat surprised to see that the Hellgale Wolf truly had a third attribute. Wang Tang started to search in all directions, without realizing that a magic circle had appeared under his body. Black Fang had transformed into a shadow, and for this reason the ice could not trap it. Black Fang appeared behind him and prepared to attack. But just then, the leopard intervened and blocked the attack, saving Wang Tang by a hair's breadth, who knew that if he had been hit, he would now be injured. Black Fang landed behind Xingwu and he decided to show their true strength, commanding it to use the Silent Claw ability. Black Fang transformed into a shadow again and started attacking the leopard, not giving it a chance to counterattack. Silent Claw was a dark attribute ability. Upon hitting the opponent, it caused a silence effect for 3 seconds. Xingyu decided it was time to end this fight with the skill Hell Howl. Black Fang began charging a ball in its mouth and launched a powerful blast towards the leopard, defeating it instantly. The referee raised Xingyu's hand and announced him as the winner, leaving everyone impressed since no one expected this result. Meanwhile, on the other side, Wang Tang fell to his knees thinking that this was impossible. Xingyu approached him, reminding him that he had lost, and then Director Su appeared, mentioning that according to the school rules, Wang Tang had to apologize. With a piercing expression, she said it was time to put an end to this farce. Wang Tang was furious, but he had no other choice, so he lowered his head before our boy and apologized. Director Su began to praise Xingyu for having performed well during the match. He was the second student who had caught her attention. Wang Tang turned his back on them and swore to make Xingyu pay for this humiliation. She began to show a proud smile. She was eagerly awaiting Xingyu's performance in the first-year classification competition that was going to take place in 3 days. Xingyu started blushing and thanked her, asking who was the first student that had caught her attention. She revealed that Yi Xuangning is a young genius with a spiritual power level above 1000. Xingyu remembered hearing about her during the entrance exams. With a smile, Su handed him a ring as a reward for having won this match since she also appreciated talent. Xingyu was left speechless since it was a spatial ring that could store anything the Beast Master needed, from food, supplements to monster beast cores. Xingyu extended his hand to take the ring and with a smile humbly accepted the reward. He took the ring and thanked her from the bottom of his heart. After a few hours, the classes ended and Xingyu left the academy, and while the leaves were blowing in the wind, he decided to hurry home since his sister must be waiting. Once our boy turned the corner, a little girl with blue hair bumped into him, leaving him somewhat confused, as he did not know where she had come from. The girl put her hand on her head and started to feel dizzy. Xingyu grabbed her by the shoulders and asked if she was okay, to which she responded affirmatively. He bent down, began to stroke her head and with a worried gaze asked her to be careful next time and suggested she get home safe and sound. The girl was paralyzed for a second, until she ran to hug our boy, explaining that she had nowhere to go, asking him to take her with him. Xingyu's mind filled with confusion since this was something he did not expect. While the sun was setting, Xingyu went to his family's bedroom and his sister mentioned that this was her first day moving to Longyan City. Xingyu took the girl he had found in front of the academy home, and upon seeing this, his sister got angry, grabbed him by the ear, and started scolding him, asking how he had dared to kidnap a child. Xingyu was even more confused than before while on the other side, the girl remained silently watching, anxious to see if our boy could convince his sister. The sister hit him, causing several bumps on his head. He got angry and asked her to wait and listen since he wanted to explain, but she got even angrier saying there was nothing to explain. A while later, Xingyu finally convinced his sister to listen and explained everything that had happened. The girl and the sister sat on the sofa. Xingyu extended his hand and mentioned that Shiming was afraid of beasts, which made her unfit to become a beast master, and she had run away from home because her family mistreated her. He began to show a finger and explained that he had brought her here to help her overcome her fear of beasts. Shiming began to hug Ryuxu and while she was crying, she asked her to let her stay since she did not want to go back home. Ryuxu began to feel sorry and decided to let her stay. Shiming started crying even more and Ryuxu gave her a hug, and her expression was filled with seriousness. She asked Xingyu to remember never to choose a woman from the Yi family. Our boy's mind was filled with questions, but even so, he nodded. That same afternoon, at the Azure Dragon Academy, the students gathered to take the attack test. Among them was also Xingyu. He began to remember what his sister had told him and did not know why she had mentioned the Yi family suddenly. Our boy was thinking out loud. One of his companions approached and asked what he was talking about, reminding him that Instructor Chen had said that today's lesson was about positioning on the battlefield, asking if he knew what this was. At the beginning, Xingyu was terrified, but then he turned around and nervously began to show a forced smile, explaining that Beast Masters focused on teamwork in battle, with different roles and different positioning. Among the roles there was shooter, beasts with long-distance attacks, capable of inflicting frequent damage from afar. Mage, beasts with large-scale control abilities, useful for causing massive damage in group battles. Tank, beast with strong defense and healing abilities, serving as shields for the team. Assassins, beasts with high mobility and finishing power, responsible for eliminating low health enemies. And support, beasts with enhancement abilities, boosting the team's skills. The boy was surprised and finally understood it and asked Xingyu what position would suit his storm butterfly. But the professor approached, and pointing at him with his finger, he gave Xingyu the order not to speak during class. Then, with a serious expression, he asked everyone to summon their beasts in student identification order to undergo each evaluation, as this was going to determine the positioning of each of the students on the battlefield. Xingyu summoned his beast and was assigned to the position of Mage, as it excelled in large-scale water attacks. Then, it was Xingyu's turn. With a smile he stepped forward, and the teacher informed him that the first test was of attack power, asking if he was ready. Xingyu remained silent for several seconds, until he activated the mark on his hand and summoned Black Fang. And once his beast appeared, he gave it the order to use Hell Howl, and Black Fang unleashed a powerful blast toward the meter, causing a critical hit effect with triple damage. The meter started to show 6,371 points. Everyone was in shock upon seeing that Xingyu had managed to do triple damage, when most couldn't even reach 1.5. Usually, the special attack damage of the initial beasts ranged between 500 and 1500. The professor could not believe that the Hellstorm Wolf had landed a triple critical hit for more than 2,000 points. Now that the attack test had ended, Xingyu assumed that he was going to fit into the role of assassin. But the professor started staring at him intently and asked him to keep going. He wanted to see how far our boy's potential could go. In the range test, Xingyu gave the order to Black Fang again to use Hellfire, and it launched another powerful burst against a tree in the distance, burning it in an instant. Xingyu was amazed to see that our boy's attack had a range of 800 meters, advising him to better take on the role of shooter. In the defense test, several attacks were launched towards Black Fang, but a shield appeared around its body, blocking the attacks. Even the extraordinary beast of Professor Chen, Ice Armor Turtle, could not break the shield. In the test control, Black Fang used the Hellbind technique, chaining some trees. Later, the buff test arrived, and using a data analysis simulation device, the instructor mentioned that any beast within 10 meters of Hellstorm Wolf would gain a 30% increase in combat, along with a 10% boost in attack speed and movement. Xingyu asked the instructor what Xingyu's position on the battlefield was since he could fit into any role. Everyone was impressed, but the professor revealed that there was a special position that suited Xingyu, known as All-Rounder. Everyone was somewhat confused, so they asked the instructor what the All-Rounder title was. Chen began to raise a finger and explained that if a tamer's beasts excelled in all positions, then that tamer will earn the title of All-Rounder. He couldn't help but smile since it was very clear that Xingyu was the only all-rounder in their class. Upon hearing this, a smile appeared on our boy's face. Excited, the other students approached him asking how he was so amazing. Xingyu blushed, and while touching his head, said that it wasn't such a big deal. But Professor Chen called everyone's attention, asking them not to get too excited since although it was rare, all-rounders were not unheard of. The first year data was still incomplete, but so far, Xingyu was the only all-rounder in the class. However, in the second year there were Yi Xuanning and Han Tianjun, and in the third year there were Murong Qingyang and Lai Xuancheng. He advised everyone to keep working hard. His students began to show a smile. Later, Xingyu left the academy and started walking down a street. He was happy and decided to go buy some nutrient boosters to prepare for the freshman ranking competition. But just then, a group of men appeared in front, asking where he was planning to go. Somewhat annoyed, Xingyu asked them who they were. With a smug smile, the leader asked our boy if he hadn't heard of the Black Tiger Guild, mentioning that our boy seemed to be looking for trouble. And among the group was Wang Tang, who began pointing at Xingyu with his finger and with a smile suggested to President Lei not to waste his words on him and to break one of his legs to see if he dared to keep acting cocky. President Lei and his men started approaching our boy, saying that his luck had run out. Xingyu noticed that the men had star insignias on their clothing, indicating that they were 3- and 4-star beast masters. He asked them if it wasn't too excessive to bully a 1-star beast master like him. Wang Tang, furious, responded that as a bully he could do whatever he wanted and Xingyu couldn't do anything about it. President Lei asked him to calm down since they were going to take care of Xingyu. Then, he summoned his beast Leihu, a white tiger. The powerful beast began to approach Xingyu, preparing to attack, but he summoned Black Fang, who bit the neck of the white tiger, saving our boy from the attack and causing the tiger's body to crash against the ground. President Lei was furious since Wang Tang had not mentioned that Xingu's beast was so strong. Black Fang and the White Tiger started fighting, and even though our beast was in a mature stage, it could face off against the Thunder Tiger of extraordinary stage as if nothing. President Lei was not going to let this happen. His men also summoned their beasts, and he decided to see who was stronger, whether his Black Tiger guild of 3 and 4 stars or a 1-star rookie. The beasts prepared to attack, but just then Qin appeared, and with a smile she decided to see who was stronger, whether the Black Tiger guild or the Celestial guild, leaving everyone in shock. At the beginning, Xingu went on alert but then couldn't help smiling upon seeing Sister Qin Yanren. The members of the Celestial guild surrounded Lei and his men, making them panic. Lei began to feel fear since the Celestial Guild was the second-ranked Beastmaster Guild in Longyan City, and not even the Hurricane Guild, which was in first place, dared to confront them. Wai, scared to death, asked her what she was doing here. She put her arm around Xingu's shoulder and mentioned that she didn't know President Lei was planning to mess with her brother. Wai was confused since he remembered that she was an only child. With a piercing gaze, she revealed that Xingu was her sworn brother, recognized by her, making one thing clear: anyone who messed with him would be going against her and the Celestial Guild, causing all of her subordinates to summon their beasts. The conceited President Lai swallowed hard, and upon seeing the beasts, he told her that all of this was a misunderstanding. Furious, he turned around, started pointing at Wang Tang with his finger, and revealed that it was him who had hired them to cause trouble for her brother. Wang Tang began to feel afraid, and with his body trembling, he started to excuse himself by saying that he had no intention of harming Xingu. Qin Yanren crossed her arms and asked Lei if he knew what to do now. He began to sweat and replied that he did. He decided to give Wang Tang a good lesson, and his men started beating him up. Wang Tang was somewhat confused since he had been the one who had hired them. Qin Yanren and Xingu went to the Celestial Guild headquarters, and she asked him how he had gotten into trouble with those people. He explained that he was just buying beast nutrient boosters when suddenly those guys showed up. Qin Yanren mentioned that he could ask her for nutrient boosters since the Celestial Guild took care of that. She raised a finger and started to smile. If our boy needed supplements, then he could tell her because she could give them to him for free. Xingu was astonished to see how generous she was. She began to present all the facilities of the building. The training facility of the Celestial Guild was equipped with top-of-the-line training equipment to improve the skills of the Beast Masters. They also had an area that was the recreation zone where the Beast Masters could relax after missions, with amenities like golf and saunas. Next, it was the conference room where they held meetings for important missions and for detailed strategy designs. They also had a medical wing, fully equipped with advanced medical technology, and a wide range of medicinal herbs. Pointing at our boy with her finger, she said that their Beast Masters doctors were highly qualified and provided the most advanced medical care for injured beasts. Xingu was somewhat astonished, grabbed Qin Yanren by the shoulders, and asked her if he could join the Celestial Guild as a Beastmaster doctor. She started to think, and just before she could respond, someone intervened. It was Liu Yu, vice president of the Celestial Guild. She said no and asked our boy who he was and how he had gotten here. Judging by his age and experience, it was a joke for him to act as the doctor of the Celestial Guild. Qin Yanren told her aunt that Xingu was her sworn brother. He was the one she had spoken about and the one who had helped her subdue the three-eyed giant monkey on the train. But just then, a man burst into the room. Nervous, he began to shout, informing Vice President Liu that they had received several severely injured beasts in the medical wing. While breathing heavily, the man asked what to do now since they were short-staffed. Liu's attention turned to the man. She asked him not to panic, advising him to get reinforcement from other branches, and gave Yanren the order to apply for assistance from other guilds. But the man said there was no time since those beasts were bleeding heavily and wouldn't last much longer. Xingu placed his hand on his chest and, determined, decided to take charge of helping, explaining to Liu that time was essential. At the same time, another wounded beast mounted on a stretcher arrived at the Celestial Guild. It was a wild mastiff with green eyes that was bleeding heavily. The nurses decided to get reserve blood bags for the beast. Once the owner arrived at the medical wing along with his injured beast, began begging the doctors to save his beast. All the doctors went on alert. Some suggested stopping the hemorrhage first since the blood loss was severe, while others tried using a hemostatic clamp which had no effect. In conclusion, no one managed to stop the hemorrhage. Our boy stayed silently observing, until he took a step forward and said that conventional methods were not going to work. He began staring intently at the wounded beast, causing its status window to appear. Thanks to this, he was able to see the vital points of the beast. This was a Beast King level creature and had a wound caused by a golden needle venomous bee king, resulting in trauma similar to a puncture. The wound was large and covered with bright green mucus, which prevented it from healing. Xingyu revealed to everyone the cause of the wound and mentioned that the green glowing mucus was a unique toxin, which made the wound impossible to heal. With a confident expression, Xingyu said that he knew how to stop the beast's bleeding, but he was not sure if the owner would trust him. The owner, who was in panic, was at a point where he had no other option but to trust him, begging him to help his beast stop the bleeding. Our protagonist gave the doctors instructions to prepare the medicine. They were in shock since the ingredients he had mentioned contained variable levels of toxicity, which was going to make the wound worse. But Xingyu stood firm and ordered them to follow his recipe immediately, or they were going to miss the best moment to treat the beast, revealing that this wild green-eyed mastiff was going to die without the medicine. The doctors, who had no other choice, ran out to prepare the medicine. 5 minutes later, one of the doctors, exhausted, brought the medicine. Xingyu put on the gloves, took the bottle and very carefully opened the cap, and then using his finger began to cover the edges of the wound with the liquid. Once the medicine started to take effect, the beast began to scream in pain, leaving Xingyu and the owner in shock. But then, the wound began to heal, successfully stopping the bleeding. The owner started crying upon seeing that his beast was going to be fine. Xingyu began taking off his gloves and asked Vice President Liu what she thought about his performance. Liu extended her hand toward him and said that his performance had far exceeded her expectations, apologizing for being grotesque earlier, and formally inviting him to join the Celestial Guild as a specially designated alchemist. Xingyu shook her hand and felt honored. After a few hours, he went to his house, where his sister, while holding a report, got angry upon seeing that he had returned home late because he had been signing a contract with the Celestial Guild to become a specially designated alchemist. Xingyu couldn't help but feel afraid. The sister turned around and was somewhat disappointed to see that Xingyu had found a spiritual sister and had forgotten about his real sister. Xingyu panicked, explaining that it was not true. But then the girl who was holding a pillow appeared and asked Xingyu if a specially assigned alchemist was something to eat. Our boy explained that now he would have a salary and this weekend they were going to go to a banquet. Xingyu and the girl raised their fists and got very excited. The scene changed to Wang Tang's room, who was now lying on his bed with his leg in a cast. He was furious and swore never to leave Xingyu alone until he got revenge. Then his father, who was disappointed, appeared and called him a useless failure. Wang Tang started crying because his father was not defending him. Despite being the son of the vice president, Wang Tang had lost to a clown from a remote city in the arena, not only dishonoring himself but the entire Wang family. Wang Tang began to cry even more and begged his father to stop yelling at him, explaining that somehow Xingyu had bonded with beasts of 3 different attributes. He got angry when he remembered that Xingyu had the support of the Celestial Guild, so he was not going to have any chance to regain his honor. The father sat on the bed next to his son and said that the Celestial Guild was someone the Wang family could not afford to offend. The father began touching his glasses and, with an evil smile, explained that if Xingyu suffered an accident during Yin Nanshan's trial and died at the hands of a magical beast, it would have nothing to do with them. The next day, it was time to do Yin Nanshan's trial, and all the students went to a forest where Wang Tang's father revealed that the trial was going to be broadcast across the entire network. All participants wore a bracelet on their arm that would allow the teachers to monitor the number of beasts hunted and battle scenes in real time. The ranking was composed based on the number of kills. 10 kills were equivalent to rank C, 31 kills rank B, 51 kills, 80 kills rank A, and having more than 80 kills was considered rank S. President Su turned to Vice President Wang and asked him that before starting the trial, please announce all the all-rounders among this class of freshmen. He closed his eyes and nodded his head. Some students had heard that Yining had obtained first place in last year's trial. Wang revealed that after the positioning evaluation test, there were 3 all-rounders among the freshman class. In Class 1 were Mu Rong Yangshu, the eldest of the Mu Rong family, and Mu Rong Xinxing. In Class 3 was Xingyu, who put his hand under his chin and began to think about the Mu Rong family. There were 4 great tamer families in China: the Yi family, the Lai family, the Mu Rong family, and the Shangguan family. After a few hours, the teachers went to the academy's broadcast room. The mustached guy named Yangzu, who was the commentator, welcomed everyone. President Su asked Vice President Wang how many beasts he thought Xingyu was going to kill. With a confident smile, he replied that about 50, which would be a good achievement. Professor Chen mentioned that there was no way since with Xingyu's talent, He was going to kill at least 80 beasts. The President Su rested her head on her hand and couldn't help but start smiling. She thought that Xingyu was going to break Yining Shuang's record, eagerly waiting to see him create a miracle. All the freshmen began to enter in order. The trial officially started. In less than 2 hours, Class 2 successfully managed to kill the short-tailed bear, with 10 kills in total. From Class 5, Sun Tianhao already had more than 20 kills, and in just 1 hour, Mu Rongyang from Class 1 already had 43 kills. He was resting under a tree while his beast was killing everyone. Yang Zhu began pointing at the screen with his finger and explained with a smile that Mu Rongyang's white griffin was the only superpower beast of the trial, and its ability called space penetration could not only instantly shorten the distance to the beast but also make any attack it launched have a penetrating effect. The white griffin was fighting against the silver-fanged snake, which was a beast with a particularly strong recovery ability, but it was restricted by the ability of the white griffin, and the death was horrible. The beast began to tear off the skin of the snake, and people started shouting, asking Xiao Bai not to torture the snake. Once the snake died, Yang Shu approached the corpse to extract the beast's core. According to the ranking, Xing was first with 50 kills, Yang Shuo second with 49 kills, and Xingyu third with 48 kills. The perspective of the transmission changed to that of Xing since people wanted to see her power. She summoned her beast to fight against a lion. Her beast was a bat with bone wings, whose bloodline was of legendary quality, being the only undead beast in the trial. The opponent was a bloodthirsty lion, an initial rank 2 beast. It had an epic bloodline. Its physical attack had a quintuple critical effect. Despite the fact that the lion was very strong, today it had encountered the bone-winged bat, marking the day it would die. All the viewers of the broadcast were on her side since she was very beautiful, and also stronger than her brother Yang Shu. Yang Zhu revealed that if she managed to kill the lion, she would have a total of 51 kills. Yang Shuo opened the leaderboard and realized that in this trial his sister was going to take first place. But then he was astonished to see that someone else had surpassed his sister. A minute earlier, she had given the order to her beast to attack, which unleashed a powerful blast from its mouth. She began to smile, thinking she had another kill secured. But then, she was terrified because Xingyu gave the order to Black Fang to attack. Just before Xing's beast's attack could land, Black Fang appeared and using its claw killed the lion, stealing the kill. The lion's head fell to the ground, and Xingyu, who was riding Black Fang, thanked Xing for the kill. Although on the outside she was trying to stay calm, deep down she was very furious. Yang Zhu reported that things had taken a dramatic turn, as our guy was really cunning. He had stolen Xing's victory and taken first place with 51 kills. At that moment, a three-eyed demon ant appeared behind them and prepared to attack. Xingyu and Xing started staring intently at each other, and the spectators could feel their fierce rivalry through the screen. No one knew who was going to claim victory over the beast. Our boy decided to strike first and gave the order to Black Fang to use Hell's Bind, causing his beast to create a fireball in its mouth. The four-eyed demon ant was famous for being thick and tough, but the Hellstorm Wolf's Hellfire ignored the armor, causing direct damage. Our boy decided it was time to finish off the beast, and Black Fang launched a powerful burst against it. The body of the beast flew into the air, and just when Black Fang was about to deliver the final blow, Xing made her move, launching a sonic blade, interrupting Black Fang. Then, she unleashed the ability Frozen Fire Bone Spirit, successfully killing the three-eyed demon ant. Once the beast's body disappeared, its core appeared on the ground. She picked up the core, and our boy was somewhat surprised to see that she was so vengeful. Yang Zhu said that things were getting interesting since Xingyu and Xing were tied for first place. Now there was less than an hour left in the trial, and all they could do was wait. Xingyu went to a river where there was a porcupine beast. Just before they could get the kill, someone stepped forward and killed the beast. It was Xing who stole another kill from our boy once again. No matter where Xingyu went, Xing was always following him to snatch his kill. During the last half hour, she had secured her advantage by taking 3 kills from Xingyu, now being in first place with 89 kills in total. Xingyu regretted it, realizing that stealing the kill had been wrong, asking if it was necessary for her to keep harassing him. Xing, who was furious, simply remained silent. With a confident smile, our boy decided not to be gentle with her, advising her to be careful. Yangzu was shocked, realizing that he hadn't even been using all his power. Now there were less than 30 minutes left for him to claim first place. Time was passing as both continued breaking records with their beast kills. Black Fang bit an ice fox, securing another kill. Zinzing started chasing a flying beast, thinking he couldn't challenge her in the skies. But to her surprise, Black Fang attacked the flying beast, getting another kill and securing first place, making her angry. Xingyu, who was riding on Black Fang, was confident that she would no longer be able to defeat him since, after all, only 30 seconds remained. She got even angrier and started calling him Stealer, leaving him somewhat confused without knowing what she was trying to say. A beast that had been hiding began staring at them intently, and while both were distracted, the beast started charging toward our boy to try a surprise attack. This was a fully evolved Tier 3 beast. Without wasting more time, Xingyu mounted Black Fang, but to his surprise the beast was already too close, ready to attack. Xingyu noticed this, but it was already too late. The beast attacked, throwing them off the cliff. Seeing this, Zinzing was shocked, and as she approached the cliff, she saw that Xingyu and his beast were holding onto a branch. Her beast began to fight against the lion, and she extended her hand so that our boy could climb. Xingyu looked to one side and saw Wang Tang among the bushes, and just then, the branch broke, causing our boy to fall to the bottom. Zinzing tried to help, but it was too late, leaving her shocked. On the broadcast platform, Professor Chen stood up and decided to personally go save his student. Principal Su asked Chen to calm down since Xingyu and Zinzing were also her students, and as dean, she was not going to allow anything to happen to them. They began to leave the room and decided to activate the emergency rescue protocol of the security department. A smile appeared on the face of Wang Tang's father, as with just one small trick, he had gotten rid of the genius child. At the bottom of Yin Nanshan Cliff, Xingyu began to open his eyes, surprised to still be alive. He remembered seeing Wang Tang in the bushes. He sat up and realized it was that bastard's doing again, vowing this time to make sure that guy paid for what he had done. Xingyu turned around and saw Black Fang injured beneath him. He asked if Black Fang had used its body as a shield to save him, something that it confirmed with a howl. Xingyu summoned a nutrient potion and gave it to his beast to drink, since with this it was going to start feeling better very soon. The sky began to cloud over, and shortly after, it started raining heavily. Xingyu used the mark he had on his hand and began absorbing Black Fang's body, deciding that it was better to find a safe place to take shelter from the rain. He found a cave, entered inside, and upon seeing that the rain had become more intense, he began to worry, wondering when it was going to stop raining. He began to worry even more at the thought that his sister must be worried, not knowing how things were going for Xingyu. While he was distracted, someone stepped on a branch. Upon hearing this, Xingyu started to feel fear, realizing that there was someone else in the cave. When he turned around, someone grabbed him by the neck. It was a woman in the form of a beast. She was furious upon seeing that a human had witnessed her true form. Deciding it was better to kill him, she began to strangle him, and with his last strength, he used his ability, causing her status window to appear. She was the nine-tailed demon fox, a creature from myths. The demon fox was surprised to see that a human had recognized her. Recognition wasn't enough to give our boy a chance. Standing before an overpowering beast, he was completely powerless. She grabbed Xingyu's neck tightly, deciding it was time to end this, but he asked her to wait, realizing that she had been injured by a pure-blood dragon, revealing that without treatment she wouldn't last more than half an hour. She was surprised to hear this, not knowing how he knew this. She began to doubt, asking what else he knew. A flame of hope appeared in Xingyu's eyes as he realized this was his chance. He activated the mark on his hand, and it began to emit a powerful golden light. The demon fox put her hand in front of her face so as not to go blind. Without hesitating for a second, she freed Xingyu and walked away, and then she started bleeding from the mouth. Xingyu, while holding his hand over his neck, said that he knew she was a nine-tailed demon fox, so there was no way he wouldn't know something so simple. A status window appeared. She was in critical condition, with several wounds, on the verge of death with only 30 minutes remaining. The cause was an invasion of pure-blood dragon energy, causing severe internal damage and Kai imbalance. He didn't know why the pure-blood dragons, extinct for 300 years, had returned, but his priority now was to keep her alive. Confident, Xingyu said he could help her. She wiped the blood from her mouth and didn't believe our boy, since there was no way a simple one-star beast tamer could help her. She placed her hand over her chest, revealing that the wounds had been caused by the most powerful of pure-blood dragons. Not even the best beast doctors would dare to try to heal her. Xingyu mentioned that he could heal her, but with one condition: he did not want to save her, only for her to kill him once she had recovered. In return, he wanted her to sign a blood contract with him. Outside the cave, it was still raining. The demon fox stomped forcefully and began to release energy. She was furious upon seeing that Xingyu wanted her to submit to him and become his beast. Xingyu stood firm in his decision, and upon seeing this, she became angrier, thinking that he was seeking death. Rage consumed her, causing her to grab our boy by the neck again. With his body trembling, Xingyu explained that she could kill him, but then she wouldn't be able to live either. Somewhat furious, the demon fox began to wonder if she really had to submit to Xingyu. At that moment, she started feeling a strong pain, and her whole body began to tremble. Xingyu realized that the dragon's power had already invaded the deepest parts of her veins, revealing that if she didn't sign the blood contract with him soon, it would be too late. She was desperate since she could not die now. She still had to complete the mission her sister had entrusted to her. She let go of Xingyu's neck and, somewhat furious, agreed to sign a blood contract with him. He felt relieved, bit his finger, causing blood to start flowing out, and then placed his finger on the forehead of the demon fox, making a golden star appear. From this moment on, she was Xingyu's beast. Once the blood contract was signed, she asked our boy to heal her. Xingyu began to take off his shirt. It was natural for him to heal her since now she was his beast, and as her owner, he was going to protect her. Seeing that he was taking off his shirt, she started blushing and, somewhat furious, asked what he was doing. Xingyu took out a knife, explaining that he was going to heal her. He stabbed the knife into his chest and mentioned that without taking off his shirt he couldn't draw blood. Blood began to emerge from the wound. Xingyu started pointing at the blood with his finger and asked her to lick it. She put her hand over her eyes and, somewhat embarrassed, she began to shake her head with her hand. She didn't know what Xingyu was trying to do. She was a mythical beast and wasn't willing to do something so embarrassing. But our boy explained that his blood could protect her heart veins against dragon blood. She had no other option since if she didn't do it, she was going to die soon. So she approached Xingyu and gently began to lick his blood. Upon tasting his blood, she started to get excited, feeling that her body was now surrounded by a powerful force. Once she finished, Xingyu put his shirt back on, and now that her wound was no longer a problem, he asked what her name was, since after all he was now her master. The demon fox said that her name was Dailu. She remembered that he was a one-star beast tamer. With a suspicious expression, she asked how he knew that her wound had been caused by the power of the dragon. Xingyu realized that she was related to the extinct dragons and was not a simple beast, so he thought that maybe she could know what was happening to him. Xingyu let out a sigh and decided to tell the truth, revealing that his eyes had been stained with dragon blood 2 months ago. Then, he activated his power and explained that thanks to this he could see the statistics window of any beast. He mentioned that he had been able to see information related to her wound thanks to the system panel. Dailu noticed that he had the same look as the dragons, his eyes being similar to the legendary eyes of the divine demon. The legend said that the eye of the divine demon could see all the information of magical beasts. She realized that our boy must be confusing this power, thinking it was a system window. This skill could only be inherited by demon dragons throughout generations, but clearly Xingyu was just a human. She became curious, not knowing exactly what Xingyu was. He was somewhat confused and asked why she was silent. She decided to stop thinking about the subject since now he was her teacher, and if he really possessed the eye of the divine demon, then she could also end up benefiting. She sat on top of a stone, revealing that he was very lucky, as his eyes had transformed into the legendary eyes of the divine demon due to the influence of dragon blood. Xingyu was somewhat surprised to see that this was not a system, and Dailu scolded him, saying to stop talking nonsense. He had not traveled through time, advising him to stop reading novels. The information panels he saw were simply a vision of the power of the eye of the divine demon. Xingyu was somewhat confused since he had not heard about it before. When he found Husky, he saw a core on the ground, and someone told him that it could awaken the blood of his spiritual beast and transform it. The first time after the dragon attack incident, it guided our boy to find a core, which could awaken the lineage of a beast. During the evaluation at Dragon Academy, he fed Black Fang with the core, and unexpectedly his beast evolved into a hellhound, and thanks to this he passed the Academy's evaluation. Xingyu did not know when he was going to hear about it again. At that moment, a beast with fangs appeared and started walking towards them. The beast began to roar, and upon seeing this, Dailu went on alert, grabbed Xingyu by the collar and pulled him aside, asking him not to let his guard down. The beast entered the cave. It was a lava lion, and it had been the one who had thrown Xingyu off the cliff. The lion began to release magma on the ground, and Xingyu was somewhat surprised to see that the beast was still relentlessly chasing him. The lion used its power and began to attack. Luckily, Dai Lu and Xingyu reacted in time and moved out of the range of the attack. In the process, his body hit the hard ground of the cave, and as soon as he stood up, the lion was already in front of him, ready to attack again. But just then, someone attacked the lion, saving Xingyu by a hair, and upon seeing this, he couldn't help but be left speechless, not knowing what was happening. The one who had attacked the lion was Dai Lu. With a smile, she began to summon a powerful energy ball, explaining that despite being injured, she was not someone whom beasts like them could challenge so easily. The lion became enraged and prepared to attack her using its claw. The battle began, creating a great curtain of smoke. Once the curtain of smoke disappeared, it could be seen that the lion was on top of Dai Lu and seemed to have the advantage. But she became enraged upon seeing that this beast had dared to disrespect her. She began to lose her composure, and rage took control of her, invoking the eye of the natural disaster. A powerful giant eye appeared above them, and in a matter of seconds, the lion's body turned to stone, losing its life. The body of the lion disappeared, and Xingyu felt relieved to see that there was no longer any danger. However, he began to feel unwell, and not long after his eyes closed, he was teleported to the Sea of Consciousness, where there was a powerful dragon, who felt happy to see that he had finally awakened. Xingyu, who was sitting on top of the dragon's body, began to wonder who was speaking, not knowing what this place was. The dragon asked if he had forgotten that his beast had evolved thanks to his help. Xingyu finally realized that the dragon had been the one who had guided him to find the lineage and evolve his Black Fang beast with the core, without knowing exactly who this dragon was. The dragon had awakened thanks to the power of the lineage, and he also did not know who he was. Xingyu soon realized that the dragon had awakened thanks to the power of the blood of the dragon from back then. The dragon was sure he could help him achieve supreme glory. Xingyu asked him to stop joking since someone who didn't know what he was wasn't going to be able to help him. The dragon questioned if he hadn't seen his ability, and a system window appeared in front of Xingyu, realizing that the system panels were the work of the dragon. The dragon could see the statistics of the magical beasts, and according to the information, if Xingyu used his consciousness, he would be able to summon the dragon, and if he followed his instructions in the future, Xingyu would be able to become a dragon. Xingyu was somewhat surprised, asking what his purpose was, and the dragon explained that he wanted to recover his memory. Xingyu asked why the dragon had appeared now. He had thought that he was some kind of system. The dragon explained that as Xingyu's strength increased, he could communicate with his consciousness more stably, and now that he had contracted 2 beast companions, he could appear. Xingyu, somewhat confused, began to wonder what this place was and how he had ended up here. This was the Sea of Consciousness where their minds were connected, and after he fell unconscious, the dragon had taken the opportunity to come see him. The dragon began to disappear, thinking it was time for Xingyu to wake up. Xingyu was somewhat anxious, not knowing when the next time they would see each other again would be, and the dragon said that he would always be with him. Xingyu woke up in the hospital, not knowing how he had ended up here, remembering having been in the cave. Professor Chen and Director Su appeared upon seeing that he had woken up. Xingyu sat down and somewhat confused asked how he had gotten here, remembering being in a cave at the bottom of the cliff. She explained that the rescue team had found him near the cave unconscious. Strangely, the rescue team had also found the corpse of the lava lion near the cave, less than 100 meters from where he had been rescued, asking if he knew what had happened there. With a nervous smile, he explained that he was unconscious at that moment, questioning if she was suspecting him and if she believed that a 1-star beast tamer who almost lost his life could be capable of killing a beast as powerful as the lava lion. The director Sue believed the words of our boy, believing that she had been overthinking about it. She asked him not to worry since the institution was going to thoroughly investigate the incident to find the truth. With a forced smile, he decided to trust her. Professor Chen mentioned that in the Yin Nanshan trial, both he and Muron Xingxin had obtained an S+ rating, breaking the Academy's record, asking him to rest calmly since he later had to prepare for the freshman classification competition which was going to start this weekend. After saying this, they left, and the mark that Xingyu had on his hand began to shine. Dai Lu manifested herself, and our boy, who had been wondering where she had gone, realized that she had entered the beast mark. She explained that he had made an effort to feed her with the blood of his heart, and after getting injured he could no longer resist, losing consciousness. And then the rescue team had arrived at the cave, so she hid inside the mark to avoid being discovered. She had heard everything, so she asked if his fall from the cliff had been an accident. Xingyu remembered seeing Wang Tang in the bushes. He knew it hadn't been an accident, vowing this time not to forgive that bastard. The vice president Wang went to his house, and while he was having a cup of tea and reading a book, Wang Tang, somewhat terrified, appeared, revealing that something terrible had happened. The father put the cup of tea on the table and could not help but get angry upon seeing his son's reckless behavior, questioning why he had interrupted his reading session. Wang Tang approached, justifying that something serious had happened. He began to show his mobile phone on which there was news about Xingyu. Recently, the Qinglong Academy had organized a trial in Yin Nanshan, and one of the talented young men had tragically fallen off a cliff. But luckily the young man had been found. Wang Tang revealed that Xingyu was not dead and was still alive. He panicked. They had not been able to kill Xingyu, and now he was going to seek revenge and was backed by the Kankyong Guild. The father remained calm, explaining that the Yin Nanshan incident had nothing to do with them. Wang Tang was not so sure about this, but with a confident smile the father mentioned that even if Xingyu suspected them, he had no proof. Wang Tang began to feel afraid. Not knowing what they were going to do now, the father opened a drawer and explained that naturally, they should do nothing or not stop until Xingyu was dead. He took out a small box with the symbol of a skull and threw it towards his son, giving him the order to kill him. Wang Tang, somewhat confused, caught the box, not knowing exactly what it was. Night fell and Xingyu went to his family apartment, and while he was resting on the bed, his phone started ringing. He was somewhat confused to see that it was a call from Lao Wu. He answered the call, and Lao Wu couldn't help but cry upon seeing that Xingyu was still alive, thanking the heavens. Our boy had returned safe and sound, winning first place in the Yinshan competition. For Lao Wu, Xingyu was incredible. If he found out who had done this to Xingyu, he would treat them like a dog. His screams were so loud that Xingyu had to cover his ear. With a smile, he began talking with Lao Wu and couldn't help but feel happy since everyone was worried about him. In the hospital, his sister had been waiting by his bedside until he recovered, and once he got home, the little girl hugged him with tears in her eyes. Lao Wu reported that the freshman ranking competition had been postponed until Xingyu recovered. Upon hearing this, Xingyu was somewhat surprised as he couldn't believe that the freshman ranking competition had been postponed just because of him. Lao Wu explained that his disappearance had gone viral, and the school had activated emergency protocols and launched a massive search for him. So for this reason, some academic activities had been delayed, including the freshman ranking competition. The freshman ranking competition was the great annual event of the Qinglong Academy, where the students had to fight among themselves to reach the final. The freshmen were going to be grouped, and the order of the competition was going to be decided by drawing lots. And once the top 8 were decided, the top 3 were going to compete. Lao Wu clenched his fist and couldn't help but feel excited, as this was an intense and thrilling battle that was going to determine the future of the freshmen. He asked our boy not to be late. Xingyu hung up the call, promising that he was going to rest well to arrive on time. If he could classify well in this competition, he was going to be able to gain the attention and resources of the academy. To unleash the abilities of the Beast Master, the Master had to provide ample spiritual energy to their beast. The higher the level of the beast, the more spiritual energy was necessary. Currently, our boy was not very strong, but with the academy's resources, he could increase his spiritual energy faster. He needed to avoid the situation in which Dailu would exhaust his energy during the last deployment of the skill. His eyes were full of revenge, since to eliminate the Wang family, he had to rely on Dailu's power. Xingyu lay down on the bed. Using Dailu's ability consumed a huge amount of spiritual energy. He had to find a way to increase his spiritual energy before the competition began. He started to fall asleep, deciding to go ask the dragon. After falling into sleep, he went to the Sea of Consciousness where he began to fall into the void. But at that moment, a bright light woke him up. He appeared in front of the dragon's eye. He asked if Xingyu was taking a shortcut. Xingyu got somewhat nervous. Now that the dragon was on his side, it was better to take advantage. The dragon did not refuse, since as long as our boy helped him recover his memory, he was going to help him in return. Xingyu made a deal with him and promised to keep his word. Helping each other, both were going to come out winning. A system window appeared in front of him. He had to meditate deeply to enter the Sea of Consciousness to talk with the dragon. But nevertheless, this was something dangerous. The dragon had adapted Xingyu's data panel using a game system from the human world as reference. The system had a shop where our boy could buy items. To prevent our boy from relaxing and losing the crucial task of helping him recover his memories, the dragon decided to issue tasks periodically through the system. If our boy completed these tasks, he would be able to earn points or other physical rewards. The dragon opened the shop, and upon seeing the items, Xingyu couldn't help but be left speechless. Without wasting a second, our boy bought the Dragon Spirit Pill. It could instantly increase the user's spiritual energy tenfold. But after 5 minutes, there would be a repercussion that would cause a period of weakness. This Dragon Spirit Pill was what our boy had in mind. But its side effects were significant, so he had to use it with caution. This was a gift from the dragon. But in the future, he was going to have to earn what he wanted for himself. From now on, he could silently recite the Beast Master crosses the void. The sacred shield obeys to invoke the system. Unless something urgent happened, Xingyu should not come to see the dragon, as he needed to rest. Xingyu kept the Dragon Spirit Pill and decided to leave and not bother the dragon anymore. The dragon began to stare at him intently, asking him not to disappoint him. The next day, Xingyu left his apartment to go to school. Although he was feeling somewhat better, his sister was still worried about him and asked him to take it easy, while on the other hand, the girl asked him to be careful. Xingyu started walking towards the academy. Today was the freshman ranking competition, and our boy didn't know if old Wu had been thinking about him. He passed by a post where there was a poster. Consumed by curiosity, he tore off the poster and couldn't help but feel somewhat surprised. It was a wanted poster for the nine-tailed fox, or better known as Dailu. She had stolen the golden core and her bounty was 3 billion. Xingyu, who was furious, went to a remote alley and summoned Dailu, asking if she was lying to him and why she hadn't told him that she was wanted by the royal family. Dailu looked away, responding that she hadn't hidden it intentionally. It was his fault for not having asked. Pointing to the wanted poster, Xingyu revealed that she was a criminal personally sought by the Empress. This was a very important matter, but even so Dailu had not thought of telling him. Dailu thought that nothing would have changed if he had known this before. If Xingyu regretted having signed the blood contract with her, then he could betray her and claim the reward. Xingyu stood firm and refused to betray her since he was now her master, and hoped that she would trust him and tell him her secrets. Dailu's mind filled with guilt, and she began to remember when she had licked Xingyu's blood to sign the blood contract. She decided to trust him and reveal the truth. She summoned a purple crystal, revealing that the reason Shangyuanlan had placed a bounty on her was because of this small crystal. Xingyu began to observe the crystal and was somewhat confused without knowing what it was. Dailu explained that it was one of the supreme treasures of the dragon clan known as Dragon's Tear. Legends said that the clan of pure-blood dragons had left behind 3 sacred artifacts: the reverse scale sword, the Dragon King's mustache, and the Dragon's Tear. The reverse scale sword and the Dragon King's mustache were devastatingly powerful artifacts used in battle, but the Dragon's Tear had no offensive capabilities, and it was formed by the tears of 10,000 pure-blood dragons. And if all its power was unleashed, it could reverse time and space, making it possible to travel to the past. Upon hearing this, our boy was speechless. He had always wondered why the dragons had been reappearing if the dragon clan had gone extinct 300 years ago. His attention fixed on Dailu's body, and he asked what had happened during the war against the dragons 300 years ago. Dailu replied that she did not know. At that moment, someone caught Xingyu's attention. He quickly activated the mark he had in his hand, and Dailu hid inside. It was Xing Zin and Yang Shu. He was somewhat surprised to see that Xingyu was still alive since he thought his sister had been mistaken. Now that our boy had survived a catastrophe, Yang Shu asked him to be careful not to die next time. Xing Zin was somewhat confused since she knew her brother was worried about him and yet he was being brusque. Yang Shu revealed that since Xingyu had fallen off the cliff, his sister had blamed herself entirely to the point of not wanting to eat. When he went to her room to call her to come eat, she refused, and only started eating again after seeing the news of Xingyu's survival on television. She was so hungry that same night she devoured several extra plates of rice. Yang Shu asked our boy to be careful next time, as his sister might stop eating again. He should be considerate, or his sister's appetite was going to suffer. Xing Zin, consumed by shame, covered her brother's mouth. Our boy promised to be careful in the future. The freshman ranking tournament was about to start and Xingyu asked if they wanted to train together. Yang Shu removed his sister's hand from his mouth and with a cold expression refused since their relationship was not close enough to train together, especially after Xingyu had stolen his sister's kill during the Yin Nanshan trial. Xingyu felt somewhat disappointed. Yang Shu and his sister left, leaving our boy somewhat confused. not knowing why they had approached him. The next day, all the students of the Azure Dragon Academy went to the stadium where the freshman ranking tournament was going to take place. The commentator Yang Zhu welcomed everyone, and with an excited smile, declared that the tournament was about to begin soon, where all the freshmen had to draw lots to determine the battle order. All the students formed a line and started drawing lots one by one. Among them were Xingyu and Wang Tang. He was furious to see that Xingyu had returned alive after all. He swore not to let Xingyu rise again this time. It was his turn to draw the lot, and everyone stepped aside upon recognizing the vice principal's son. Wang Tang exploited his father's position within the academy to harass the girls in the library, but Xingyu had given him what he deserved in the arena. Everyone despised Wang Tang, calling him the greatest disgrace of the academy. Wang Tang was furious after being humiliated by Xingyu last time. He drew a lot from the box, and an evil smile spread across his face as it turned out he would be fighting against Xingyu. A perfect opportunity for revenge. Nobody could believe that a fight between Wang Tang and Xingyu was going to take place again. The fight was not a coincidence, since Wang Tang's father had hit the lot with our boy's name on one side of the box. Wang Tang was happy and determined not to let his father down again. Consumed by hatred, he approached Xingyu and swore to destroy his beast later in the ring. In response, Xingyu showed a confident smile, saying that he would be looking forward to it. The time for the fight arrived, and the two got into the ring. Xingyu began to walk toward him, determined to take revenge on him for throwing him off the cliff. Yang Shu and Xing Xin were among the spectators. The brother, somewhat confused, asked why she kept staring intently at Xingyu, to which she responded with another question, questioning if he couldn't feel it. Yang Shu was somewhat surprised since he couldn't feel anything, but his sister revealed that ever since Xingyu had been rescued after falling off the cliff, his aura had become much stronger than before. Director Su was also surprised at the increase in Xingyu's power without knowing what he had been doing these past few days. Once Xingyu and Wang Tang got into the ring, the referee took out a red flag and indicated the start of the round. Quickly, Xingyu and Wang Tang distanced themselves and summoned their beasts, giving them the order to attack. On the screen appeared the statistics of Black Fang and the Ice Leopard. Upon seeing this, Xing Xin was terrified and felt that something was not right. According to the statistics, Black Fang was in its initial form, but based on its aura, she felt that its level was not of the initial form. She knew that the beast tester did not make mistakes, so she thought that the information must be correct. Xing Xin's mind was filled with confusion. For her, this was very strange. She was surprised when she realized that Xingyu was purposely suppressing Black Fang's level to use this competition to complete a decisive breakthrough. The Ice Leopard pounced on Black Fang, but it quickly moved out of the area and dodged its powerful attack. The Ice Leopard opened its mouth and launched a powerful ice crystal, but just before the attack could hit, Black Fang transformed into shadow. The ice crystal exploded, creating a cold and powerful wave throughout the area. The explosion was so powerful that all the spectators began to feel cold. Once the smoke curtain started to disappear, the shadow began to move, and while the Ice Leopard was trying to understand what had just happened, Black Fang appeared behind it and started to smile. Black Fang used the Infernal Howl, destroying the ground into pieces and causing the body of the Ice Leopard to be thrown backward. Then Black Fang appeared behind it and summoned a great explosion. The explosion made the cold environment created by Ice Leopard's attack disappear, making the spectators feel warm. Yang Zhu was speechless as this confrontation was very exciting. A moment ago it was cold and now it's warm. Xingyu got angry, activated the mark he had on his hand and gave the order to Black Fang to use the Silent Claw, leaving Yang Zhu in shock since it was the first time he saw someone deploy a combat technique of the dark attribute. Black Fang's body began to emit a sinister aura, causing the Ice Leopard to retreat due to fear. Black Fang's aura extended its claw and struck the Ice Leopard hard in the face. Now it had been silenced by Black Fang's Silent Claw and could not use abilities. Everyone started mocking the beast, saying that it looked exactly like its master. Wang Tang stood firm since he was not going to lose twice against the same skill. He filled himself with determination, took out a small ice ball, and threw it at his beast. It opened its mouth and swallowed it. The Ice Leopard began to smile, then two crystals appeared on the beast's body, and afterward its teeth and claws grew, becoming much larger than before. It stomped hard on the ground, opened its mouth, and launched a powerful blast of ice toward Black Fang. It began to roar with force, releasing ice crystals. Then the beast used its power and started to freeze the ground. Xingyu was confused since he didn't know how the beast had suddenly become so strong. He used his power and his eyes began to shine, and thanks to this he could see the strange aura that was around the beast's body. Realizing that Wang Tang had used forbidden drugs to make his beast stronger, he revealed to everyone that in order to win this fight, Wang Tang had stooped to the level of forcing his beast to take forbidden drugs. Obviously, this made him angry. He extended his hand and gave the order for his beast to use the storm of ice blades. The beast opened its mouth and began to shoot sharp ice crystals toward Black Fang. Several crystals grazed against its body, creating small cuts. Now Black Fang was injured, and upon seeing this, Xingyu couldn't help but feel worried, asking it to hold on. Consumed by thirst for revenge, Wang Tang clenched his fist and mentioned that this was not over yet, deciding to finish this using the ice hammer. A great hammer of ice began to form in the sky, and then it started to descend upon Black Fang. Xingyu's beast had no time to react, causing the hammer to strike it. The attack froze the ground and Black Fang's limbs. The spectators were in shock as they didn't know how the ice leopard had suddenly become so strong. Now Xingyu was at a disadvantage since his beast couldn't move. With a confident smile, Wang Tang mentioned that last time in the arena he had let him win on purpose, but this time he was going to show him true strength. Wang Tang's father and director Su were also watching the fight. With a smile, the father praised Wang Tang, saying that his talent was not inferior to Xingyu's. She was furious as she knew they had used some drug to make Wang Tang's beast stronger. Black Fang was now in danger because if things continued like this, not only it was going to lose the fight, but there would also be after effects from the fight. The ice leopard began to approach, and Xingyu was aware of the danger, so he gave the order to his beast to use the winter tail strike. Little by little the ice began to freeze Black Fang's body. Xing Xin, Director Su, Professor Chen, and our boy's friend didn't know what was going to happen now or if Xingyu was going to be able to reverse the situation. Xingyu simply started showing a confident smile. He hadn't hunted more than 100 magical beasts in the southern mountain in vain. He gave the order to his beast to use the infernal fire lotus. Black Fang clenched its teeth tightly and a powerful flower made of fire appeared beneath it, breaking the ice and freeing its body. Upon seeing flames, Wang Tang panicked and gave the order to his beast to retreat. Black Fang's body began releasing a powerful aura, causing the ice leopard to back away. Black Fang started charging a ball of fire in its mouth, and then launched a flower made of fire towards the beast. Professor Chen couldn't help but smile, realizing that this ability was of the fire attribute. Director Su was impressed to see that Xingyu was capable of using a combat technique that only a few beast masters could use, thinking that his future was bright. Wang Tang's father was furious, but he knew that despite Xingyu's beast becoming stronger, there was still an opportunity to win. Black Fang had used the fire attribute attack in its full form. The fire flower began chasing the ice leopard. After taking small jumps, the ice leopard moved away a bit, and using its breath began to repel the attack. Despite Black Fang being in its initial form, it had learned advanced combat skills. At this rate, Xingyu was going to surpass Yi Xuangning, the genius of the academy. Xingyu extended his hand toward his beast and decided it was time to finish this. Wang Tang's beast was unable to resist, and the fire flower began to release a powerful flame, burning its body. Once the smoke screen disappeared, the ice leopard could be seen collapsed on the ground. Seeing this, Xing Xin and Yang Shu were paralyzed, while the others were in shock. Yang Zhu raised his hand and decided it was time to announce the winner. He began pointing at Xingyu with his finger and declared that he was the winner. Everyone started praising him, and their attention focused on the screen as Black Fang's attributes had changed. Black Fang was now at stage 3, having ascended 2 stages during the combat. Xingyu had broken an unprecedented record. Wang Tang fell to the ground in disbelief. He could not believe that he had lost again. Since the Azure Dragon Academy had organized the freshman ranking competition, for the first time a beast that had ascended 2 stages at once had appeared in the ring, and the person who had managed to create this miracle was Xingyu. The body of Ice Leopard collapsed on the ground, and Xingyu began to pet Black Fang and with a proud smile praised it. After hunting dozens of demonic beasts in the Yinnan Mountain, Black Fang was attacked again by a lava lion tiger beast, being on the edge between life and death, bringing it to a critical point and unable to become stronger. This time Xingyu had restricted the use of abilities on Ice Leopard, driving it into a dead end so that Black Fang could defeat it and ascend in stage. One of the judges intervened and called our boy's attention, explaining that he should be expelled. It was Wang Dingsheng, Wang Tang's father. Xingyu became curious without knowing what this guy was plotting now, but then remembered that Wang Tang had used forbidden drugs. Pointing at the corpse of the Ice Leopard, Dingsheng revealed that according to the rules Xingyu should have restrained himself, but now the Ice Leopard was dead, being clear evidence that he should be expelled from the academy. The other instructors also stepped forward and sided with Dingsheng, arguing that although Xingyu had talent, he was someone cruel and ruthless who did not deserve to continue in the competition under any circumstances and should be expelled. Director Su did not lose her composure and responded that the doctors were going to carefully investigate the case, and then she was going to give everyone an explanation. She began to stare intently at Dingsheng and explained that once the truth came to light, she was not going to forgive those who wanted to incriminate and harm the students. Having said this, she ordered the ice leopard's corpse to be brought so a veterinary doctor could thoroughly examine it. The doctors followed her order and brought the body, then began to examine it thoroughly. After a while, she asked the doctors if there was any discovery. One of the doctors reported that there was massive hemorrhaging in the organs caused by Black Fang. Upon hearing this, a smile appeared on Dongsheng's face. Luckily, he had bribed the Academy's beast doctor in advance since he knew Director Su was meticulous and would try to investigate. He approached her and mentioned that, as she herself had heard, there was nothing strange about Ice Leopard's corpse. But just then, Xingyu appeared behind them explaining that he would never have dared to kill a beast in front of everyone, arguing that Black Fang's Infernal Fire Lotus was a burn-type attack. However, the Ice Leopard's corpse showed clear signs of having died from massive hemorrhage in the organs. The other instructors became suspicious since it made no sense for Xingyu to kill the beast under everyone's watch, realizing that Black Fang's soul attacks caused no physical damage. Xingyu began pointing at the doctor and asked if his diagnosis was correct. Upon hearing this, the doctor couldn't help but get a little nervous. Our boy started whispering, advising the man not to ruin his career as a beast doctor for some money, and asked him to think carefully before speaking, making him even more nervous. He didn't know what he would do if they discovered that Deputy Director Wang Dingsheng had bribed him. Given that this matter was of great importance, Xingyu requested permission to perform a blood test on the ice leopard. Director Su granted him permission but asked him not to take too long. The doctors began conducting the blood tests, and 10 minutes later, the doctor hurried toward Director Su to reveal the true cause of death. She became curious and asked him to stop hesitating. He started pointing at the report and revealed that the ice leopard had died from consuming a fury pill, enraging Wang Tang, who called the doctor incompetent. He fell to his knees on the ground, swearing to Director Su that he had not given the fury pill to his beast. The doctor explained that according to the analysis results, it could be confirmed that the beast had consumed a frenzied pill. After taking it, the beast enters a frenzied state, increasing its strength while at the same time suffering an adverse reaction. Director Su took the report and asked Wang Tang if he still wanted to deny it despite the conclusive evidence. Poor Wang Tang became nervous, not knowing what to do now. Deputy Director Wang approached his son and upon seeing this, he began asking for help. The other instructors were disappointed to see how cruel Deputy Director Wang's son was. For them, he was someone heartless and desperate to win. Consumed by despair, Deputy Director Wang asked Director Su if she could give his son another chance. With a piercing expression, she reminded him that he was not only a father but also the Deputy Director of Qinglong Academy, and if he wanted to commit favoritism and corruption, then he could leave the academy along with his son. He was furious because he knew that if this continued like this, even he would be affected. Now that his son had violated the academy's rules by giving his beast a fury pill, he was going to be expelled. Wang Tang was in shock to see that even his own father was not on his side. Wang Dingsheng, who was thirsty for revenge, explained to his son that now that the matter of the fury pill had come to light, they had no choice but to compromise, but he swore he would avenge him. After saying this, he pushed his son and gave the guards the order to take him out of the academy. The competition ended and the list of the top 8 came out, and according to the list, first place was Murong Xingxin and our boy was second. Xingyu was the best talent among the freshmen. He was someone who had managed to be among the top 8 without power or influence. Everyone who had seen Xingyu's fight against Wang Tang had directly given up on fighting him. Yang Shu mentioned that Xingyu was among the top 8 and remembered that in Yin Nanshan's trial, he had stolen many kills from his sister. He promised to avenge her the next day. Xingxin refused, and her attention fixed on the screen, she wanted to defeat Xingyu herself. Xingyu's friend appeared and with a smile gave him the good news that he had made it to the list of the top 8. Xingyu, who was holding an envelope, asked if it was necessary to be so excited. His friend, who was panting heavily, decided to celebrate this properly. The Deputy Director Wang Dingsheng was furious, asking him not to celebrate victory so soon. At the same time, someone went to our boy's house and destroyed everything. Xingyu's friend, Wu, insisted on going out to celebrate. It was already nighttime, and our boy was happy because he was finally going to be able to go home. When he arrived at his house, Xingyu saw that the door was broken and everything was a mess. He was worried because he didn't know what had happened. Worried about little Mingming, Xingyu started looking for her like crazy until he finally found her in a corner crying. The little Mingmeng gave him a hug, revealing that Sister Raoxu had been kidnapped by a man wearing a mask, and he had left a letter, leaving our boy in shock. Xingyu began to stroke the little girl's head and asked her not to cry since Sister Raoxu was going to be fine. He took the letter she was holding in her hands and saw the kidnapper's message. If Xingyu wanted to save his sister, then he must go to Yinnan Mountain. Once the moon emerged, Xingyu headed to the mountain. He couldn't believe that someone had dared to touch his sister. After exploring a little, he saw his sister unconscious next to a tree. Our boy panicked, not knowing if she was still alive or not. Then a hooded man appeared and with a smile asked him to stop screaming since his sister was not dead yet. Our boy started shouting and ordered him to release his sister. With an evil smile, the man asked if Xingyu wasn't curious to know who he was. Recently, the only one who was on bad terms with Xingyu was Wang Tang, but he was someone who neither had the guts nor the ability to kidnap anyone. Our boy quickly realized that this guy was his father, Wang Dingsheng. Now that there was no reason to keep hiding his face, Wang Dingsheng removed his hood, impressed by how astute Xingyu was. If he had been his son, he would have trained him to become the youngest and strongest beast tamer in the entire dragon nation. He began releasing energy. For him, it was a pity since Xingyu wasn't his son and had dared to hurt Wang Tang, so he had to die at any cost. Wang Dingsheng activated his ring to use the power of the earth to summon the Stone Guardian. A bear-shaped beast emerged from the ground. This beast wielded a mace as a weapon and was the most powerful beast Xingyu had seen so far. The Rock Demon Bear was a king-class beast. It had the power to remain in a dominant state at all times, freely unleashing its abilities while nullifying enemy control abilities. Wang Dingsheng believed there was no way that a one-star beast tamer could win against his king-class beast. Xingyu began to smile and mentioned that he was afraid he would be disappointed. In response, Wang Dingsheng mocked him, asking if he was going to send his little black fang to become a small snack for his rock demon bear. Xingyu activated the mark on his hand, revealing that he had more than one beast, giving the order for Dai Lu to come out. The sky filled with black clouds and thunder. Wang Dingsheng began to feel fear, and it didn't take long for him to realize who this terrifying aura belonged to. Dai Lu emerged from the mark, and while stretching her arms and waking up, she asked why Xingyu had summoned her. He had interrupted her beauty sleep again, advising him to think carefully about how to reward her afterward. Coldly, Xingyu gave her the order to get rid of the bear. She questioned if she could go to sleep after defeating the bear. Our boy promised that if she got rid of the bear, then she could sleep as much as she wanted. Wang Dingsheng couldn't help but sweat, as he knew that Dai Lu's aura was too terrifying. If he didn't act now, it would be too late. While Dai Lu and Xingyu were distracted talking, he gave his beast the order to attack. The bear, surrounded by flames, lunged at her. Without losing composure, Dai Lu began staring intently at the beast. And just before the demon rock bear could attack, a giant eye appeared in the sky, making its body grow heavy. In a matter of seconds, the bear's body began to turn into stone until it transformed into a statue. Wang Dingsheng was trembling as he finally realized that she was the nine-tailed fox, and that Xingyu had made a contract with the most wanted beast in the entire nation. He started to smile, knowing that if this came to light, Xingyu was going to be in serious trouble. But our boy was confident, explaining that he had summoned the nine-tailed fox since he did not plan on letting him leave this mountain alive. Wang Dingsheng panicked and despaired, but he knew that the gap between a one-star beast tamer and a six-star one was not something a single beast could close. At that moment, the eyes of the rock demon bear began to shine intensely. Flames started to emerge from its body until several seconds later, the hard layer of rock that had formed around its body shattered into pieces. The tension in the atmosphere grew, and everyone fell silent. The bear's eyes began to shine with excitement, and Wang Dingsheng started to smile, admitting that the nine-tailed fox was formidable. But no matter how fierce she was, it did not change the fact that Xingyu was just a one-star beast tamer. He decided it was time to show this rookie the insurmountable abyss between a one-star beast tamer and a six-star one. The bear struck the ground forcefully and began to release a strange energy. The beast grabbed its mace and started roaring, causing the strange energy to spread throughout the area. Xingyu clenched his teeth as he knew that this beast was of the dark element. These creatures thrived by consuming blood, whether human or from other animals. For our boy, it became evident that Wang Dingsheng was the one behind the disappearance of low-level beasts in Longyan City over the past few years. He began to smile, confirming Xingu's suspicions. A tattoo of a red skull appeared on his face. Dingsheng mentioned that dying under the fangs of his demon rock bear was a supreme privilege for those low-level beasts. Xingu began to feel a fear he had never felt before, and his attention fixed on the skull, realizing that this guy was a member of the Red Skull Guild, a group specialized in dark elements beast masters, condemned as an evil terrorist organization. This guild was among the 5 great dark guilds. Our boy asked what the world would think if they discovered that the vice dean of Qinglong Academy secretly served the Red Skull Guild. Dingsheng responded in the same way Xingyu had done. Now that he had exposed his true identity, he did not intend to let him leave the mountains alive. Somewhat worried, Dailu turned around and explained to her master that his current energy reserves were too low for her to unleash any combat technique. Xingyu took out the dragon spirit pill that he had in his pocket, and with a confident smile asked her not to worry since he did not get involved in battles unless victory was guaranteed. Xingyu put the pill in his mouth and began to release a strange breath. He extended his hands and started to release a lot of energy. Wang Dingsheng extended his hand and decided it was time to end this, making the bear start charging towards them. The eyes of our boy began to shine, and his attention fixed on Dingsheng, asking Dailu to get ready. She stood in front of him and mentioned that she was ready. The fierce bear appeared above them, ready to attack using the mace. At that moment, our boy gave the order to Dailu to transform. Dailu's body started changing into her true form. She transformed into the powerful 9-tailed fox, a mighty beast. She raised her head and began to gaze toward the sky. She started to focus her energy on the sky, making a giant eye appear, much more powerful than the previous one. The eye began to scan the area and marked its target as the bear's chest. Just before the beast could attack, the eye unleashed a powerful burst, which pierced through the beast's body with little effort. The burst even reached Wang Dingsheng, passing through his body as if it were paper. He couldn't believe this was happening to him. Then an evil energy began to emerge from his wound until several seconds later it covered his entire body and started burning him. Xingyu and Dailu climbed up a cliff far from the area. Our boy began to feel dizzy due to the side effects of the dragon spirit pill. His eyes started to close, causing Dailu to panic. Xingyu's body fell to the ground, and Dailu began slapping him and in a desperate attempt asked him to wake up, telling him not to give up as it was a direct order from the emperor. At that moment, someone started walking towards them, and thanks to the fox's sharp senses, Dailu noticed this, and when she turned around, someone grabbed her by the neck. It was none other than Ryuxu. She began gazing at the ground, thinking about what to do with Dailu now. She grabbed Dailu by the neck and lifted her off the ground. Despite being a powerful beast, Dailu could feel her sinister aura. Ryuxu began to observe her, and it didn't take long for her to realize that she was the famous 9-tailed demon fox, a revered beast emperor among magical creatures. For her, it was unexpected to see that a beast like her had made a blood pact with her brother. Dailu began to feel a fear she had never felt before upon realizing that Ryuxu possessed the power of dragons. She had such an unstoppable wave of dragon strength that even Dailu had never felt before in her life. Ryuxu was Xingu's biological sister, so it made no sense for her to be able to wield the essence of dragon power. Dailu clenched her teeth tightly out of fear, not knowing what she really was. Ryuxu simply asked her to keep quiet, as her identity was not something she should worry about. She released Dailu, approached Xingyu to check how he was doing, and mentioned that for now, she was only his sister. She placed her hand on his chest and began using her power. Dailu, somewhat concerned, asked what had happened to him. Ryuxu explained that he had consumed a potion that provided a temporary boost to spiritual energy, but the backlash had taken its toll. Then she inserted some of her energy into Xingyu's body and said there was nothing to worry about since his injuries were not severe. 3 days of rest would be more than enough for him to return to normal. Then, she stood up, and Dailu asked what she was. Ryuxu's eyes began to shine and she started to sing the Dragon's Whisper. The melodies began to fly until they reached the forest and struck some flowers. Dailu was in shock since the Dragon's Whisper was a battle art exclusive to pure dragons, and through singing a unique melody, it could restore all things in existence. Ryuxu's song began to restore the trees and all other areas that had been damaged during the combat. Dragon scales appeared on her face. With a confident smile, she revealed that she had eliminated all traces of battle. Apart from the two of them and Xingyu, no one was going to know what had happened. As far as Dailu knew, Only a dragon of pure bloodline possessed platinum scales, and the name of that dragon was Chaos. Ryuxu began to release a piercing energy and decided to ignore the fact that the Dragon Empress had placed a bounty on her. Now that she knew Dailu had sworn a blood contract with her brother, she suggested not wavering in her loyalty. From that day forward, she had to dedicate herself to helping her brother, and under this condition, she was going to leave her in peace. But if she dared to betray him, then she was going to cut off her 9 tails. Dailu fell to her knees on the ground out of fear and swore not to betray Xingyu. And last but not least, she also could not say a single word about her identity to Xingyu. The next day, Xingyu woke up in the hospital ward, and next to his stretcher he saw his sister and Director Su. The sister gave him a hug and started to cry. She was happy to see that he had finally woken up. She was hugging him so tightly that he couldn't breathe. He asked what had happened that night. With a worried expression, she mentioned that night, after waking up, she had found him in Yin Nanshan. He was unconscious right next to her, and she didn't know what had happened, but he was drenched in sweat, so she had brought him down the mountain as quickly as possible for a medical checkup. Xingyu was happy that she hadn't noticed anything out of the ordinary, thinking that Dailu must have cleaned all traces of battle perfectly. Director Su approached and explained that Xingyu had been unconscious for 3 days, missing the semifinals and finals of the freshman ranking tournament. She also revealed that Murong Xinxin and Murong Yangshuo had claimed 1st and 2nd place, and everyone had assumed that Xingyu had given up his chance to compete. She didn't care about this and was happy to see that he was okay. Just before she could finish speaking, with his body trembling, Xingyu sat up and asked if she wasn't curious to know why he was in Yin Nanshan in the first place. He started staring at her, waiting for her response. She remained silent for a few seconds, then sighed only to reveal that 2 days ago, Vice Dean Wang had also disappeared. Xingyu tensed up, unsure if they had been discovered. Ryuxu's gaze fixed on Director Su. She extended her claws and swore to eliminate her immediately if she dared to harm her brother. Although Director Su knew what had happened, she decided to continue investigating this matter because she believed Xingyu was innocent, and it was already time for a change in the position of Vice Dean at Qinglong Academy. Ryuxu and Xingyu started looking at each other. Neither of them could believe that she had chosen to protect him. Director Su sat next to the sister, saying that her visit this time was not only to check on Xingyu's health but also to inform him about the Nova tournament. Xingyu's mind was filled with confusion since he did not know what the Nova tournament was. You see, this tournament is a great competition jointly organized by the 4 main beast-taming academies of Qinglong, Beihu, Zhuge, and Xuanwu. Each academy is required to send 3 first-year students to participate. The contestants are all exceptionally talented from their respective academies. At Qinglong Academy, when speaking of the most gifted student, everyone mentions the name Yi Xuangning. However, in last year's Nova tournament, she was defeated by Lima Cheng from Beihu Academy, achieving 2nd place. Director Su's eyes filled with hope as she expected him to represent the academy in the competition and lead them to reclaim glory. This would also make up for the regrets of the freshman ranking competition. Before participating, Xingyu wanted to know what the requirements were. She explained that Condition 1 was that participants must have at least 2 tamed beasts, and Condition 2 was that participants must be beast tamers of at least 2 stars. She placed her hands on our boy's shoulders, revealing that the competition was next month and she believed he could qualify before then. Xingyu remained silent, not knowing what to say. She had always held him in high regard and had always taken care of him. He swore not to disappoint her and also wanted to see the strength of Beihu Academy, more precisely the participant who had defeated Yi Xuangning. With a confident smile, he asked her not to worry since the 1st place in the Nova tournament was going to be his. Some time later, Xingyu returned to the Yin Nanshan mountain, and while he was walking, he remembered that last year's participants each had at least 2 contracted beasts. Although he also had 2 tamed beasts, Dailu was a nationally wanted criminal and could not be summoned in public. Moreover, Black Fang was currently only in the 3rd stage of its initial form, an infernal gale wolf, which made it difficult to handle a competition of this level. Tonight was the moment for Black Fang to break through and advance. He summoned his beast, which opened its mouth and began to roar. Our boy activated the ring he wore on his finger, and 5 elements began to float around him. Luckily, he had come prepared. After Director Su left, he had been discharged and used his salary from the Skyscape Guild as a beast doctor to buy fire element nutrients and evolution materials, and some of these were also rewards from Yin Nanshan's trial in the freshman ranking competition. In an instant, the ground was filled with evolution materials. Our boy started petting his beast and asked it to devour them, thinking this was more than enough for Black Fang to evolve. Black Fang opened its mouth and devoured all the materials, causing powerful energy to emerge from its body. But just then, Xingyu summoned Dailu and asked her to protect them, knowing that Black Fang's breakthrough carried the risk of going berserk. Dailu appeared behind them and nodded. Black Fang's eyes began to shine, but our boy asked it to calm down. The beast's energy began to expand, but luckily, Dailu activated her power, creating a barrier. Xingyu was on the ground and could feel the pain that Black Fang was enduring now. He clenched his fist and began to invoke the dragon system. He wanted to see how much time was left for his beast's evolution to be completed. A system bar appeared in front of him, and the progress bar stopped at 99%, making our boy wonder if the evolution had failed. But then, Black Fang stomped hard on the ground. Now its form was different and it had 3 eyes. Now it was the Hell Netherwolf. Xingyu noticed that his Black Fang had awakened a new attribute, better known as the Demon attribute. Black Fang's body was emitting a powerful and evil energy. Dailu was somewhat surprised to see that it had awakened the Demon attribute. Xingyu was happy, and Dailu finally realized that he was a special beast tamer. He gave his beast a hug and was glad that it had become stronger again. Dailu interrupted them, asking if he planned to form a contract with another beast. Xingyu turned to her, not knowing what to say. Yanren soon found out that he was going to participate in the Nova tournament, and seeing that he didn't have any beasts, she decided to go shopping to buy one. Our boy, somewhat nervous, started touching his head and thanked her. In response, she placed her hand on her chest and with a confident smile mentioned that he was her brother. His matters were hers as well. And besides, getting a beast wasn't anything complicated. Once they arrived at the store, she decided to let him choose the beast he liked the most. Once they entered, with a smile, the shop owner asked if she wanted to buy Thunder attribute nutrients or if she wanted to purchase a magical core of a Thunder attribute beast. Qin Yanren explained to San Yang that her brother was going to participate in a tournament next month and needed a new beast, asking her for a recommendation. With a smile, San Yang began pointing at a spider-shaped beast and said that this beast was perfect for him. It was the red-eyed evil spider. Its attack power was much higher than beasts of the same level. Then she showed them a white tiger, which was quite flexible and could cause critical damage. Just before San Yang could continue, Qin Yanren interrupted her and asked her not to recommend low-priced spiritual beasts. They wanted to see some high-quality beasts since after all she was the one paying. They approached a door that was locked with a password. San Yang decided not to hide anything and show the best beasts they had. The door began to open, and she decided to let Xingyu choose the best spiritual beasts in the shop. This room contained many beasts locked in tubes. Xingyu began to observe carefully to see if any caught his attention. Among the beasts, there was a burrowing pangolin with good attributes. Then there was the 3-eyed tyrant snake, which had venom capable of causing burn damage. And there was also the bone sculpture, a rare beast. Xingyu put his hand under his chin and began to think. He could see the statistics of the beasts, and none caught his attention since they did not have a hidden lineage. Qin Yanren was somewhat confused to see that Xingyu did not like any of these beasts. Seeing that Xingyu was not satisfied with any of these high-quality beasts, San Yang asked what kind of beast he was looking for. Once they left the room, someone informed San Yang that new merchandise had arrived. It was a bald man holding an electrified cage with 2 small fairies. Xingyu extended his hand and explained that according to what he knew, these spiritual beasts belonged to the category of useless beasts. He didn't know how it had occurred to her to stock up on these spiritual beasts. But just then, Qin Yanren began whispering and mentioned that if they sold these spirits as beasts, no one would buy them. But if they sold them as pets, buyers wouldn't be lacking. Our boy realized that these beasts were to satisfy the bad tastes of the rich and people with power. Xingyu's eyes began to shine, and he turned towards the fairies. One of the fairies was called Little Fairy of the Water Element, who had the hidden lineage called Angelic Lineage of Mythical Quality. Xingyu was paralyzed, and Qin Yanren asked if there was any problem. With a smile, he turned around and decided to buy the fairy. Qin Yanren and San Yang thought he was joking and began to imagine what he was going to do with the little fairy. Xingyu got angry without knowing what they were thinking. He approached the cage, started observing with a curious gaze, and decided that she was going to be his beast since he better than anyone knew that she had angelic lineage. After buying her, he went to the southern Yin mountain, opened the cage, and began stroking the fairy, asking her not to be afraid as he wasn't going to harm her. He took out a magic pill which was going to heal all the fairy's wounds. The little fairy was surprised. She ate the pill and all her wounds healed. With a kind smile, he asked if she was willing to form a blood pact with him and be his tamed beast. The little fairy began to blush and hesitate about what to do, and then she started to remember how well Xingyu had treated her. She took Xingu's finger, indicating that she wanted to be his beast, leaving him somewhat surprised. He couldn't believe that she wanted to form a blood pact with him. Xingyu made a cut on his finger. The fairy used her water element powers and placed the drop of blood on top of her head. The blood contract was successful, and from now on she was his beast companion. The little fairy began to fly, leaving a magical trail in her wake. Now that they had signed the blood contract, Xingyu asked if she recognized him as her tamer. He began to caress the fairy's face and couldn't help but smile. After signing the blood contract, the relationship between the beast and the master became closer. He extended his hand and summoned a crystal. It had the function of awakening lineage. He had crushed it so she could eat it and evolve. The little fairy began to observe the crystal carefully. She hesitated for a moment until she grabbed the crystal and started eating, but then something happened, and she dropped the crystal with an unpleasant expression. She began to feel very cold, and a golden energy started to emerge from her body. Xingyu, who was somewhat worried, clenched his fists and asked her to hold on a little because everything was going to be fine. A powerful explosion occurred in the area. It was so powerful that a golden flash shot into the sky. Upon feeling the explosion, Dailu emerged and, somewhat concerned, asked if he was okay. Our boy replied that he was fine, but Dailu became furious and clenched her teeth. In front of them, there was a golden cocoon, and when the cocoon opened, a woman with angel wings emerged. She carried two weapons like swords. Xingyu and Dailu stood silently watching her. A smile spread across our boy's face because this was the hidden lineage of the little fairy. She was the angel of sacred light and still had several more evolutionary paths. When he became a 9-star beast tamer, she would be able to evolve into a 12-winged seraph angel. He started to touch his chin and remembered that he had not given her any name. Before awakening the hidden lineage, she was a spirit of the water element. He decided to call her Freya. She began to smile, showing that she liked this name. You see, in Greek mythology, Freya referred to the elves of the water element. Freya descended to the ground and prostrated herself before Xingyan, showing respect. He explained that from now on they were going to fight together. Dailu realized that he was one step closer to the supernova competition, and our boy nodded his head. He began to smile. It was time to take the next step and become a 2-star beast tamer. In the office, the professor slammed the table hard. He was furious and confused upon seeing that Xingyu intended to apply to become a 2-star beast tamer. He started touching his head, affirming that it was so. The supernova competition was about to begin, and he had to quickly pass the 2-star beast tamer evaluation. The teacher was speechless upon seeing how fast his students were growing. The siblings of the Mirong family had also passed the 2-star beast tamer exam 3 days ago. He had heard that Black Fang, Xingu's beast, had evolved to the mature stage of 1st level, believing that maybe he would be able to pass the evaluation to become a 2-star beast tamer. He took out a watch and handed it to Xingyu. It was used to measure spiritual power. If our boy's power met the standard, he would allow him to apply for the evaluation. Xingyu got excited and put on the watch. The other teachers approached. They had heard that our boy had extraordinary strength and wanted to see it with their own eyes. The spiritual power meter started to rise, first reaching 1,000, then 2,000, until it finally stopped at 2583 points. The teachers were in shock, and if they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it. The professor knew that generally, after a tamed beast broke through and evolved, the spiritual energy of the tamer also increased. But according to the analysis of previous data, the energy value of a 2-star beast tamer was usually between 2,000 and 3,000. He explained that the students he had taught before who had good talent, once their spiritual beasts entered the mature stage, the spiritual energy value of those beast tamers was around 1,500. However, our boy's energy far exceeded this figure and reached 2,500. He decided to let him apply for the exam to become a 2-star beast tamer. Our boy thanked the professor with a smile. Using a helicopter, they went to the Bloody Mist Canyon. It was a military helicopter. Someone opened the door. It was Xingyu. He began observing the canyon and asked if this was the evaluation site. The director Su and the professor communicated with him through an earpiece. He had arrived at the entrance of the Bloody Mist Canyon, and the evaluation was about to begin. In this place, there was a large number of magical beasts. If he found himself in a situation he couldn't handle, he was free to send a distress signal at any time and not be reckless. Xingyu put on the parachute, informing that he was ready. Director Su and the professor were in a room observing everything. She explained that all he had to do was enter from one side of the canyon and successfully reach the exit on the other side. passing the evaluation. After explaining, she decided to start the evaluation so Xingyu could become a 2-star beast tamer. Xingyu jumped from the helicopter into the bottom of the canyon and activated his parachute, ready to take the exam. Director Su and the professor were monitoring Xingyu's exam with the help of some cameras. With a calm demeanor, he informed her that Xingyu had entered the Bloody Mist Canyon. At the bottom of the canyon, there were crocodile-shaped beasts. The professor became serious as he explained that examinees who wanted to cross the canyon first had to fight against giant iron-jawed crocodiles, then escape from the clutches of the demon blood spider clan that inhabited the magical cave. However, within the spider clan, there were some in their 3rd stage. Director Su, somewhat concerned, asked if Xingyu would be able to face them. She recalled that due to last night's storm, something unexpected had occurred. The attention of the giant iron-jawed crocodiles was fixed on Xingyu, who was descending toward the bottom with his parachute. Upon seeing these beasts, Xingyu was somewhat surprised, and when he activated his system, he saw that these crocodiles were in their 3rd stage of initial form with an elite quality lineage, characterized by having a super powerful bite and lethal venom. In an instant, a horde of crocodiles gathered at the spot where Xingyu was about to land, ready to devour him. The professor knew that these magical beasts were in their initial form, so Xingyu only needed to summon Black Fang to deal with them without trouble. But to everyone's surprise, our boy activated the mark on his hand and summoned Freya. The crocodiles opened their mouths ready to devour him, but then a powerful energy began to emerge from his body. And not long after, Freya, the little fairy who had evolved, appeared in front of our boy. The professor was speechless, seeing that Xingyu this time had not summoned Black Fang, thinking he might be in danger. Meanwhile, on the other side, Director Su realized that this was Xingyu's 2nd contracted beast. Freya extended her hands and, using her power, made protective golden magic dust appear around Xingyu's body. Freya's statistics window appeared. She was at the initial stage and had angel lineage, a mythical lineage. The professor was speechless, realizing that Xingyu truly was a talent since he had even made a contract with an angel-type spiritual beast with a mythical lineage. His eyes filled with worry since angelic beasts had not been seen in the city of Longyan for many years, and he did not know where Xingyu had gotten this beast. Remaining calm as always, Director Su explained that she had heard that 2 days ago Xingyu had bought a water element spirit at a beast shop, questioning if it was related to the angel beast. However, the professor quickly dismissed this theory since water element beasts had inferior lineage, and Xingyu's sacred light angel beast had a pure angel lineage. She reminded Professor Chen not to forget that previously Black Fang was initially just a husky with an inferior bloodline. Chen admitted that Xingyu always did what was considered impossible, realizing that this was what truly meant to be a beast tamer. Xingyu and Freya were already at the bottom of the canyon, surrounded by crocodiles. Xingyu wasted no more time and commanded Freya to finish them off, causing her to unleash a golden burst toward the beasts, gravely injuring them. The professor's jaw dropped upon seeing that with a simple movement, Xingyu's beast had defeated the giant iron-jawed crocodiles. He realized the difference in lineage between our boy's beast and the crocodiles. For him, it was no surprise that she was a tamed beast of angelic lineage, and that the reputation of mythical quality lineage was well deserved. Now that the crocodiles were dead, Xingyu asked Freya to fly him across the swamp. She obeyed and got behind Xingyu, leaving him somewhat confused. Then, she picked him up in her arms and started flying. Xingyu couldn't help but feel embarrassed, questioning what she was doing. He gave her the order to put him down since this was too embarrassing, and while they were flying, our boy covered his eyes due to the embarrassment. A while later, they arrived at the entrance of the cave, and as soon as they landed, a dense demonic energy began to emerge from within. Then, a horde of small spiders came out of the cave, and they started to prepare a web. Xingyu felt that something was wrong and asked Freya to be careful. Thanks to this, she unsheathed her swords and launched 2 powerful slashes toward the spiders. Although in the process her sword became covered in webs, Freya's attack disintegrated the giant web, killing the small spiders in the process. But then, a spider much larger than the others emerged from the cave. It was furious and began to roar. It was called Demonic Blood Spider, and was in the 3rd stage with an elite quality lineage. Xingyu went on alert, remembering that demonic blood spiders were gregarious beasts, so there had to be more than 20 spiders in the cave. His suspicions were correct as eyes began to shine from deep within the cave. The spider began to roar, indicating that it was ready to attack. Professor Chen mentioned that Xingyu's sacred light angel, although only a beast in its initial form, could ignore the level difference and cause damage to the demonic spider. The spider attacked with its leg, but Xingyu evaded the attack, moving backward. He knew that Freya alone was not going to be able to defeat the spider, so he activated the mark on his hand and summoned Black Fang. Black Fang appeared and began roaring. Freya started flying, and Black Fang adopted a defensive stance, indicating they were ready to receive orders and attack. Director Su communicated with Xingwu through the earpiece, asking him not to get distracted fighting, reminding him that the goal to pass the evaluation was reaching the finish line, not killing beasts. Xingwu's gaze fixed on the spider and he began to ponder until a smile appeared on his face. He extended his hand towards the spider and with a smile commanded Black Fang to use Infernal Howl, making it open its mouth and start gathering energy. Black Fang's attack brought down the spider as if it were nothing, forcing the others to leave the cave. One of the spiders opened its mouth and launched silk, creating a deadly trap in which any beast could get caught. Black Fang jumped and avoided the web, but while it was in the air, one of the spider's attention fixed on it. It opened its mouth and launched silk, which successfully wrapped around Black Fang's leg. The silk made Black Fang stop running, and when it turned around, it went on alert. The cunning spider made Black Fang's leg crash against the rocks, causing it terrible pain. Then, two of the spiders also launched silk from their mouths to immobilize Black Fang. Xingwu was not going to let this happen, so he gave Freya the order to use Sacred Light Protection on Black Fang, and gave Black Fang the order to spin its body and release the Infernal Black Lotus. Following Xingwu's order, Freya pointed the sword at Black Fang, creating a shield around it. The ability had the function of dispersing the negative effects of enemy attacks and providing a sacred light shield to allies. Just before the silks could reach Black Fang, it used Infernal Black Lotus, creating a small tornado around its body, blocking the attacks. The tornado grew larger and began advancing toward the spiders, forcing them to flee. But it was already too late. In an instant, the tornado massacred all the spiders, leaving the ground full of blood and corpses. Xingwu, standing in front of Black Fang, mocked the spiders. He had defeated more than 25 without much effort. But his taunts were interrupted when suddenly something hit the cave wall, and the ground began to shake. Xingwu, visibly nervous, realized that this aura was from a magical beast in its full form. An explosion occurred, destroying the cave wall into pieces, and once the curtain of smoke disappeared, a spider with a skull head appeared. This spider was called Demonic Eye of the Cavern, being the evolved form of the demonic blood spider. Professor Chen, somewhat worried, asked Xingwu to withdraw as soon as possible since yesterday's storm had caused the spider to evolve, and there was no way he could win. Xingwu was somewhat upset and asked if the exam would not be cancelled if he withdrew. Chen told him not to worry about it since he could try again next time, as he was sure that with his current power, he would be able to pass without any problems. Xingwu clenched his fists. For him, it was a great waste of time to try again. He was determined to pass the exam to become a 2-star beast tamer. He was determined even to defeat the gods if they stood in his way. Black Fang opened its mouth and launched a powerful burst of energy. Freya began to fly and launched some powerful slashes towards the spider, creating a great curtain of smoke. Once it disappeared, it could be seen that the spider did not have a scratch since there was a shield around its body. Xingwu was in shock. Professor Chen said it was not the time for nonsense, and they decided to go look for him immediately. Dailu also sided with Chen, explaining that he was right and Xingwu should not act recklessly since with his current strength, it was impossible to defeat the spider. Xingwu began to smile, thinking that this sounded interesting, leaving Dailu in shock. His eyes started to shine with determination. He wanted to pass the 2-star beast tamer evaluation. He wanted to defeat this magical beast and test his own limits. Dailu thought that Xingwu was truly crazy. The spider became enraged. With a smile, our boy gave the order to Black Fang to infiltrate behind the spider with the help of Silent Shadow, and then attack with Silent Claw. Following his order, Black Fang transformed into a shadow. The spider didn't notice and launched silk towards Xingwu. Seeing this, Xingwu asked Freya to protect him. Black Fang emerged behind the spider and just before it could realize, used the Silent Claw and attacked the spider in the abdomen, creating 2 deep cuts. The spider, upon noticing this, struck Black Fang with one of its legs. Xingwu's eyes were full of concern. The spider's attack was so strong that Black Fang's body was sent flying toward them. Luckily, Freya reacted in time and created a shield in front of Xingwu. Black Fang's body collided with the shield, causing Xingwu's body to be thrown against the cave wall. Xingwu's body created a big hole in the wall, but despite having taken some damage, He and his beasts were fine and had not received any serious injuries. The spider started laughing, thinking it had defeated them. Xingyu, showing a thumbs down, asked why it was so proud and if it was mocking him. To him, this behavior was not surprising since after all it was a monster with a human face. The spider, visibly furious, launched silk at them again. Xingyu mounted Black Fang and with a leap, they dodged the attack. He knew the silk was poisonous, so he asked Black Fang to move away from the spider. Black Fang began to flee the area. Xingyu used the dragon's eyes. He knew that continuing to fight like this would lead nowhere. He had to think of some way to defeat the beast. But then, the spider's life bar appeared, and little by little it was decreasing. Blood began to emerge from the wound that Black Fang had inflicted on the spider. Xingyu's attention was fixed on the wound. He was somewhat confused since the wound wasn't that deep, but the silk that the spider had expelled wasn't as strong as before, questioning whether it could be that the amount of blood was related to the spider silk. Black Fang was struggling to run with Xingyu mounted on it. Our boy noticed this and, seeing that his beast was injured, knew it couldn't carry him any longer, so he asked Freya to carry him flying. Following Xingyu's order, Freya grabbed him and they started flying, making Black Fang feel lighter. Xingyu turned around and saw that the spider's health bar had dropped again. A smile appeared on his face as he found a way to deal with it. He asked his beast to spit at the spider. Black Fang was somewhat confused, but Xingyu clarified that it was only to make it angry. Black Fang turned and spat, and its saliva fell on top of the spider's head, making it explode with rage. Xingyu's plan worked since the spider shot 3 silk threads from its mouth. Our boy commanded Black Fang to use Stealthy Shadow. It submerged into the ground, transforming into a shadow. He finally came to the conclusion that the spider's vital essence was consumed when releasing silk. When the last thread of silk in its body had been completely released, it would be like a candle in the wind. He explained to his beast that it didn't need to put itself in danger, it just had to enrage the spider by any method. Black Fang roared, indicating that it had understood. Black Fang created a copy of itself made of shadow, leaving the spider somewhat confused. It attacked again using silk, but Black Fang jumped and dodged the attack without much difficulty. But while it was in the air, the silk stuck to its leg, and by the time Black Fang realized it was already too late. With the help of the silk, the spider slammed Black Fang's body against the ground and then attacked using its sharp leg. Black Fang recovered and stepped back to distance itself from the spider. With a serious tone, Xingyu asked Black Fang not to hold back and advised it to activate demonic transformation. Then commanded Freya with an order to apply sacred protection to Black Fang to eliminate any negative effects from received attacks. Freya used her power and Black Fang began to roar, making demonic energy emerge from the ground. At the same time, a military helicopter appeared in the sky. It was raining, and inside the helicopter were Professor Chen and Director Su. Chen, showing concern, asked if they could intervene. But with a calm and confident tone, she suggested waiting a little longer since Xingyu seemed to have found a way to deal with the spider. But Chen wasn't so sure if Xingyu and his beasts would be able to hold on. Night fell and 7 hours had already passed. The spider was still standing as well as Freya and Black Fang. Xingyu was exhausted, but the spider had already lost more than 90% of its life, and the color of the silk had also faded. It could not resist against the demonic force and the sacred protection that reinforced Black Fang. He was panting heavily, knowing that if they continued at this pace, the spider was going to die. He remembered that all living beings had a survival instinct, and despite having lost much health, the spider had no intention of escaping. He didn't know if it was due to hatred, but thinking clearly, he realized that the spider had never strayed too far from the cave, which meant there might be some treasure inside. The spider once again expelled silk from its mouth. The silk began to form a spike, but now the amount of silk had drastically decreased compared to before. Upon seeing this, Xingyu asked Black Fang to use the infernal roar. His beast opened its mouth and counterattacked. Our boy saw that the spider didn't have much silk left, so this was the opportunity to attack, giving Black Fang the order to use the infernal fire lotus. Black Fang began spewing fire from its mouth, which hit the spider directly, making it furious. It raised its head and expelled silk toward the sky. But luckily Freya reacted in time and using her wings and body, blocked most of the silk, thus saving Black Fang and Xingyu from the attack. Our boy asked his beasts not to worry about him, as now the important thing was to kill the spider. He commanded Black Fang to use the infernal fire lotus one last time. Black Fang launched a powerful flame of fire, which struck against the spider's abdomen, inflicting much damage and causing its body to crash against the ground. Xingyu, who was very exhausted, sat down and couldn't help but sigh as they had finally managed to defeat the spider, praising his beasts for having done a good job. he decided it was time to take a look to see what was inside the cave. Xingyu stood up with the help of Black Fang, ready to enter. But then, Director Su contacted him, asking him to hurry up. But our boy explained that he had already defeated the spider. She revealed to him that even if the spider was dead, there was still a chance it could use one last ability. Xingyu panicked, and when he turned around he saw that the spider's eyes were shining with malice. It started roaring, indicating that it was not dead yet. The spider stood up, blocking the only exit of the cave, and then its body began to mutate and break apart, causing cracks to appear. Xingyu realized that something bad was going to happen, so he asked Freya to hide inside the beast mark. Her eyes began to shine with determination, and memories of how well Xingyu had treated her came to her mind. Without hesitating for a second, she started flying toward the spider. Xingyu panicked and ordered her to return. She paid no attention to Xingyu and stabbed her sword into the spider's body, pulling it out of the cave. Once outside, she attacked, causing its body to be shot into the air. Not long after, the spider exploded, creating a big explosion far from Xingyu and Black Fang. He came out of the cave and his attention was fixed on Freya. He was speechless upon seeing that she had used a new ability by herself. He ran to give her a hug, saying that she was incredible. Now that the spider was dead, they entered the cave to see what the spiders were protecting with their lives. Once inside, they found a showcase with a green seed. Xingyu, somewhat curious, asked if Dailu knew what type of seed it was. She explained it was the ancestor of the plant-type spiritual beast with ancestral lineage called Beast of the Celestial Soul. Xingyu took the seed and his eyes widened with happiness since it was a very difficult seed to obtain. With such a strong lineage, he assumed that it must be extremely difficult to cultivate. He asked if Dailu knew how to cultivate this seed. She began to touch her chin and explained that the conditions for cultivating it were complicated. It was necessary to water it with dew from phoenix tail grass, nectar from magical firefly flowers, and fertilize it with manure from magical beasts. Xingyu was somewhat confused since cultivating the seed seemed harder than taking care of a rich girlfriend. He started inspecting the seed and remembered that Dailu was an emperor beast, and moreover a magical beast who had angered the empress of the Dragon Kingdom. Someone as important as her should know many divine beasts. She got angry asking if he wanted her to collect excrement. Xingyu started to smile since he was not asking her, making Dailu even angrier. After obtaining the seed, Xingyu left the cave and met Director Su in the helicopter. She was worried about him, but our boy, who was hiding the seed, asked her not to worry about him. 2 weeks later, Xingyu went to the stadium in Four Spirits City where all the spectators were excited. It was no wonder to him that this was a large-scale national competition since people were very enthusiastic. Just then, Yang Shuo and Xin Xing appeared. With a smile the brother announced their arrival. Xingyu greeted them with a kind smile and mentioned that Liu Jin had become more beautiful. Yang Shuo was in shock. He spat out his drink upon seeing Xingyu. He was furious, demanding to know why Xingyu was calling his sister Liu Jin instead of Xin Xing. With a calm demeanor, our boy responded that Xin Xing was complicated, so he had given his sister a nickname. Yang Shuo exploded with rage upon seeing that Xingyu had given such a vulgar nickname to his sister. He swore by his name to give him a beating in the competition. Xin Xing intervened and asked her brother to calm down. Yang Shuo respected his sister, so he nodded. Xin Xing sat next to Xingyu and he asked her if she had improved her tamed beasts. With a smile, she explained that her first beast had already advanced to the second stage and her second tamed beast had awakened the lightning attribute. Yang Shuo was in shock to see that his sister not only took the initiative to talk with Xingyu but also accepted the nickname Liu Jin. He could not avoid crying as he remembered that his sister was very resentful. A couple of years ago, he called her by a nickname and as a consequence she got angry and did not speak to him for days, realizing that she was spoiling Xingyu too much. Yang Shuo started to go crazy. Xingyu, who was somewhat confused, asked Xin Xing what his brother was talking about. She was somewhat disappointed and asked our boy not to give it much importance. Touching his head, Xingyu changed the subject by asking who their opponents were. Xin Xing replied that she didn't know since the results of the draw had not been published. But then, someone appeared and revealed that the results had already been published. Upon hearing this, the attention of the three turned to one side. It was Director Su. While she was holding a folder, she revealed that their first opponent was White Tiger Academy. She made it clear that no matter what, today they must completely crush them in the individual matches. Someone joined the conversation, asking why Director Su was so angry. It was a blonde woman who mocked them by questioning why she was so afraid of losing to White Tiger Academy. Director Su, visibly upset, asked why Director Zhu was not returning to her reserved seat and what she was doing in the preparation area of Qinglong Academy, explaining that if she wanted to see the results of the draw, she could do so from her phone. Calmly, Zhu replied that she had come to take a look at the new talent of Qinglong Academy. She had heard that he had fought against a magical beast in full form and could also simultaneously control beasts with both hell and angel attributes, just like that man. Zhu got face to face with Director Su and mentioned that seeing it with her own eyes was the best way to confirm it. She admitted that Xingyu had some talent but said he was nothing more than another ordinary talent. Director Su became angry and asked if Zhu believed her students were better than those of Qinglong Academy. Yang Shuo, somewhat confused, began to show a forced smile, asking Director Su to calm down. Our boy remembered that she was Zhu Qinglu, and it was said that she and Director Su were rivals who had been competing with each other since elementary school. Whether in grades or family background, both always thought about surpassing the other. Professor Chen intervened and asked them to calm down, informing them that the Empress was about to arrive. Zhu and Su turned their backs on each other, visibly upset. Before leaving, Zhu promised to make the Qinglong Academy pack up and go home. Su did not let herself be offended and mentioned that this remained to be seen. With an angry expression, she gave the order to Xingyu, Yang Shu, and Xinxing to follow her onto the stage to welcome the Empress. The roof of the stadium began to open, letting in the rays of the sun. Then a cloud began flying toward the stadium. Above the cloud, there was a spiritual beast. Everyone was surprised to see that the Empress had arrived. According to some, she was the most beautiful and powerful woman in the Dragon Kingdom. Her name was Shangguan Lan. She was a beautiful woman with white hair and orange eyes, and the Empress of the Dragon Kingdom, and her tamed beast was a powerful dragon. The dragon began to fly through the sky, leaving Xingyu speechless. She was the strongest beast master in the Dragon Kingdom and her aura was truly terrifying. Once her dragon landed on the platform, she got off and began to observe in silence. Xingyu's gaze fixed on the Empress's insignia. His eyes widened in surprise as she had an 11-star insignia, being stronger than all the 10-star beast tamers. He finally realized that the difference between her and him was not as simple as just a few stars. Xingyu activated his power and his eye began to shine, making the dragon's status window appear. However, the system could only see some of its stats. It was in the 3rd stage and had the pure Qilin lineage of legendary quality. Xingyu swallowed, realizing that the power gap was too great, beyond the detection range of the dragon's eye. He put his hand under his chin and remembered that Dailu was being sought by order of the Empress, questioning how she had survived. According to him, she should feel lucky to have found him since without his help, she would have died. Even though Dailu was upset, she had no choice but to think that Xingyu was right. The Empress sat on her throne. Xingyu asked if the sacred rainbow Qilin was the only spiritual beast Shangguan had. Dailu revealed it wasn't. Under the command of the Empress, there were even more powerful spiritual beasts. A powerful golden dragon appeared around the Empress's body. Xingyu's jaw dropped upon seeing a dragon with pure power. He asked Dailu if the Empress had a spiritual beast under her command that was a pure dragon, recalling that pure dragons had been extinct for more than 100 years. Dailu crossed her arms and said she didn't know. Xingyu was in shock because, according to historical records, only pure dragons, pure phoenixes, and pure Qilins possessed blood with world-creating qualities. In terms of strength, dragons were the strongest, followed by phoenixes and then Qilins. But the dragons had been extinct, and if it wasn't false, Xingyu didn't know how she had contracted a dragon. He also noticed that she additionally possessed one of the 3 great relics of the Dragon Clan. The Dragon's Tear, it was just as Xingyu suspected. The war against the dragons wasn't so simple. The Empress sat on her throne and gave the order to start the competition. With a smile, Yang Shuo explained to Xingyu that nothing would happen if he lost the individual match, as they still had the 2 of them. Director Su mentioned that according to the result of the draw, Xingyu was first. With a confident smile, Xingyu promised to secure the first victory. Xingyu and his opponent descended into the ring. The first match was between Lin Tianxai, son of the president of White Tiger Academy, and Xingyu, a humble genius from Qinglong Academy. Xingyu summoned Black Fang, and Lin Tianxai summoned his beast called Red Sand Snake. Xinxing was worried since the red snake had the sand attribute, being a direct counter to Black Fang who had the fire attribute. Yang Shuo calmly mentioned that in a duel of the same level, attribute restriction was more important than lineage. So in this round, Xingyu had it tough. Lin Tianxai gave the order to his snake to use the sand tornado, causing it to launch a powerful ray of sand which transformed into a sand tornado. Xinghu was not going to stand idly by, so he commanded Black Fang to use the infernal howl. The attack struck the tornado but did not completely destroy it. In the process, Black Fang received several injuries. With a smile, Lin Tianxai mocked Xinghu, revealing that his serpent countered Black Fang and that he was destined to lose. If Xinghu surrendered now, he would show mercy. With a smile, our boy asked him not to claim victory so early since the fight had only just begun. Mentioning that what happened earlier was just a warm-up, he started showing 2 fingers, revealing that he was going to defeat him with only 2 more moves. This enraged Lin Tianxai. Xinghu gave his beast the order to use Infernal Roar into the air. Black Fang opened its mouth and launched a powerful burst of energy toward the sky. The sky was beautiful. A woman who was next to the Empress couldn't help but wonder if Xinghu wanted to melt the sand, explaining that the temperature of Black Fang's flames wasn't enough. The Empress's attention fixed on Xinghu, and with a smile she mentioned that this wasn't Xinghu's plan. The woman became curious, wanting to know what he had in mind. Black Fang's infernal howl reached up to the clouds, and the Empress revealed that he wanted to use the rainbow cloud she had brought. Lin Tianxai was dumbfounded and confused, his gaze fixed on Black Fang. He did not know what Xinghu planned to do. Just then it started to rain, making Lin Tianxai's eyes widen in surprise. He knew this was not good, so he gave the order to his beast to stop Black Fang. The snake began to release fire, ready to attack. A cloud began to form in the sky and it started to rain with even more intensity. With a smile, our boy made it clear that it was already late, and that Lin Tianxai had already lost the opportunity. Lin Tianxai could not help but panic since now the entire arena was wet, and now his red snake was not going to be able to use either the sand whirlwind technique or quicksand. Xinghu extended his hand and gave the order to Black Fang to use the infernal lotus. It jumped, opened its mouth, and launched a powerful burst of fire towards the snake. Lin Tianxai's beast had no time to react, and its body was completely scorched due to the intense flames. In a matter of seconds, the snake fell defeated to the ground, and not long after, Lin Tianxai fell to his knees, and smoke began to emerge from his mouth. Everyone was in shock upon seeing that Xinghu had managed to win with just 2 moves. For them, Xinghu's plan to make it rain had been incredible. The Empress could not help but smile upon seeing that in critical moments, Xinghu knew how to think quickly. The assistant appeared and, while holding a report, mentioned that Xinghu's background had been investigated and nothing out of the ordinary had been found. She asked if the first invitation was meant for a commoner like him. Upon hearing this, with a calm gaze, the Empress turned around and said that the first invitation to this year's Imperial Soul Training Camp would be for Xinghu. The assistant closed her eyes and nodded her head. Xinghu returned to the others. Yang Shuo praised our boy for the victory. Xin Xing couldn't help but smile and also praised him. With a smile, our boy made it clear that he was not going to lose against someone like Lin Tianxai. Director Su, who was sitting among the audience, waved at Xinghu with her hand and with a kind smile promised to reward him for his performance once they returned to the academy. Upon seeing this, a smile appeared on Xinghu's face and he greeted her back. Just then, Dai Lu interrupted his thoughts and revealed that she could perceive phoenix tail grass. Xinghu became serious as he remembered that phoenix tail grass was found on the western border. He did not know why there was also some in Xiling City. He stood up, and upon seeing this, with a worried expression, Xin Xing asked if he was not going to watch the next match. Xinghu calmly responded that his individual combat had already ended and the other matches had nothing to do with him. He left with the excuse that he needed to go to the bathroom. Pointing at herself, she mentioned that it was now her turn. Yang Shuo got angry and asked if Xinghu was making fun of his sister. With a kind gaze, our boy wished her good luck, promising that he would be supporting her. Xin Xing was somewhat upset, but Xinghu apologized, explaining that he had something important to do and didn't have time to watch her match. Xin Xing turned her head and accepted on the condition that Xinghu had to accompany her after the match. Xinghu ran off and promised. The next match was between Murong Xinxing from Qinglong Academy against Zhuo Yi from Beihu Academy, son of the Lord of the City. On some street in Xiling City, it turned out that City Lord Zhuo, who guarded the border, had returned, and as a form of gratitude, some citizens even offered him gifts. He was a hero who brought glory to the city and to the Dragon Country. Xinghu arrived at the place and was amazed to see that many people had come to welcome the army. Zhuo was a man with white hair and his beast was a powerful rhinoceros. It was called War Rhinoceros. It was in the second stage and was a king-type beast with a mythical quality lineage. Xinghu was speechless upon seeing an 8-star beast tamer and a king-type beast. The beast had loyalty above 150, which meant that the beast tamer and the beast had overcome many challenges while being on the brink of death. Dailu manifested and explained that it was a war beast, and they had always been in conflict with the nine-tailed fox clan. She also mentioned that only those who guarded one of the 4 great border cities of the Dragon Kingdom in the west could be called City Lord. Xinghu put his hand on his head and realized that Zhuoxing was the father of Zhuoyi, Xinzing's opponent. The phoenix tail grass grew in the western glaciers of Legu, which were infested with magical beasts. She explained that Zhuoxing was stationed in the west, so he had phoenix tail grass. She clenched her fists and asked Xinghu to steal his backpack. Xinghu was somewhat confused since it was not going to be easy at all to steal from an 8-star beast tamer. Just then something caught Xinghu's attention. It was the rhinoceros who was limping. He did not know if it was sick. In the ear and in the eyes of the rhinoceros there were small insects. Xinghu made his way through the crowd and with a smile explained that he knew that Zhuo's beast seemed to be sick, revealing that he had a way to cure it. With a calm expression, Zhuoxing asked why Xinghu believed that his beast was sick. He recognized that our boy wore the Qinglong Academy uniform, realizing that he was more or less the same age as his son, so there was no way that he knew about medicine. Xinghu took out a card and explained that he was a pharmacist from the Kankyong Association. He also asked if Zhuoxing's beast often felt depressed and if when it rained, red spots appeared all over its body, causing ulcers. Zhuoxing was speechless. He grabbed Xinghu's card and explained that this time he had only returned for his beast to be treated. But he still could not trust Xinghu, so he asked what the reason for his beast's illness was. He wanted to see if his diagnosis matched what other famous doctors said. With a smile, Xinghu said that the reason was simple. He approached the rhinoceros and gently removed one of the insects that was sucking its blood, revealing that the insect was the culprit behind his beast being sick. Zhuoxing could not help but praise Xinghu for his medical knowledge, but he explained that over the years, he had hired many famous doctors, yet no one had been able to eradicate the parasites. He asked what method Xinghu had to get rid of them. With a smile, Xinghu said it was better to go somewhere else since he needed medicinal herbs. Zhuoxing agreed and suggested going to his residence, asking which herbs were needed. Xinghu could request any herb that was necessary since, after all, Zhuo was willing to help him with anything. A smile appeared on Xinghu's face because not only would he be able to obtain Phoenix Tail Herb, but he would also be able to forge a friendship with him. This is the end of the video. If you guys want to see the next part, then don't forget to subscribe and like the video.